Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Breakfast with Winners. It's a Friday. Just me and Mr. Ashley Shipman here in the studio, all alone.
Good morning, everyone.
Say something again. Can I hear you?
Good morning, everyone.
That microphone's a bit too high for you, isn't it?
Let me lower it.
Is that either raise the chair or lower the microphone, or a bit of both.
I'm trying to meet in the middle.
We are live on YouTube this morning. You can click on the link, which is going to be pinned to the top of the room any minute now. One job you had to do this morning: pin the link. The link should be coming to the top of the room. We're live on YouTube. You can see that. We've got a guest joining us via YouTube, via live stream, a bit later on this morning. Simon Alexander, who's got a book out at the moment called Energize. So this morning is all about creating motivation. What do you do to create motivation? You know that little stuff that I think most of us in this room has got inside of us, the desire to want more. How do we create that? Because it's a difficult thing. I've had the opportunity over the last couple of months to work with a group of young offenders in a mentoring type capacity. And one thing that I was talking to you, wasn't I, just now off air? One thing that I have noticed in basically all of them is just a complete lack of desire is probably the best way to describe it, and a lack of motivation. And I don't know whether that's a generational thing or not. And I'll give you a story, or I'll give you an example and a plight of one guy. I won't say his name, who I've been talking to. I've actually been trying to find him some work, actually. So there's this guy. He spent 10 years selling stuff that he shouldn't sell. Probably putting it in the nicest possible way, at an okay level. And I was actually having this conversation with him. The skills that it took him to build a team, because he was selling stuff that he shouldn't have been selling, right? Which is wrong. Yeah. Okay, but for 10 years he built a team, managed the team, managed the supply of materials into his organisation, and then found ways to sell them, okay, and distribute them, and got caught, right? Then spent a couple of years in prison, and he's out. So his current plight and situation, his whole life was stacked up. He wasn't the sharpest guy tool in the box, so he wasn't at a level where he'd put lots of money away or saved or done any of his stuff. He didn't, and actually everything that he did have was taken off of him because it was proceeds of crime. So he's now in a situation where he is 26 years old. So what's that? 2 years younger than you?
Yeah, 3.
26 years old. He's got a 12-year-old daughter. He lives in shared accommodation, which is classed as emergency housing because he was declared as homeless. So he's now in a house share with 4 other people who are all in similar situations to him. Okay, so he lives in an echo chamber of similar views and similar situations, and you can guess, like, most of his rhetoric and his language is about how, you know, everybody's entitled, everybody around him, he gets more than he does, and everybody around him is entitled, you know, and has had stuff handed down to him, and blah blah blah, and all that stuff. Okay, so anyway, he lives in this house share. He is given, I think he said to me that he pays £80 a month for his accommodation. And he's been actively told, and this is the bit that was shocking, and I've done a bit of research on this to find that it is most likely true. He was actively told by his caseworker that it's not beneficial for him to go and find full-time employment, because where he's paying £80 for accommodation a month, if he gets a full-time job, that will rise to £900 that he'll have to pay for his accommodation. So he's now in a position where he's scratching around trying to find cash in hand work, okay, which he's not going to get. He hasn't got a driving license. He's never had a desire to get a driving license, which is something else I've noticed with working with this group of young people. When I grew up, the first thing that was on my radar was to get a driving license.
I couldn't wait.
It was like freedom. But there was no desire for a lot of these guys and girls. There's some girls there. There's no desire for most of them to have a driving license. It's just almost like it's not.
Why is that?
It's not in them. And then there's no. So I tried to sit down with him and I thought, right, okay. I said, look, you've got a 12-year-old daughter. You know, life's, by his standards, life's shit at the moment. So where do you want life to be in 10 years' time? You know, if you could look to the future to 10 years. And he generally could not see a future. He could generally not see what he wanted to do, how he wanted to do it. It's like there was writer's block there for him. And I've been racking my brain for weeks, especially with this particular group, of how do you create motivation in somebody that doesn't want to be motivated when all of their circumstances around them are pushing them down and trying to keep them down. And I was thinking, because if you listen to his story, his actual story, we've all got stories, right? His story was his dad left him, he didn't have a bad relationship with mum. Well, guess what? Most people in this room probably got a story like that, right? So we've all got one. But so as he was speaking, I'm trying to think, well, what was different in me? Because his story up until the point where he got arrested and put in prison, and selling drugs, was very similar. Had a hardly any family, had a really bad upbringing on a council estate. So what was different in, say, my approach to life to his approach to life, and then how circumstances unfolded? I guess for me, there's this sort of paradox breaking down in my head, which was, how do we create our own motivation, desire to want more? Because that was the only difference. Is in my head, I wanted more from life. That was it, simple. And I'd done anything possible to try and do it, to achieve that.
I think when I was younger, I was around a lot of people that had more. So it was like an internal drive. But then, as you said, it could be in an echo chamber where they don't see the path out. Like,
so we play a game today. So we try and get the top 10.
Because it's more than finding
the
your
top
why.
10 points of guidance to find motivation. And 10 things somebody should do who is completely unmotivated, down and out, unwilling to get a driving. Because I said, this guy's simple, right? This guy has got. I was watching him turn his hands to stuff over a period of time. I've seen him turn his hands to stuff. So his application to work is there. His ability to work is there. He seems to want to like gardening, right? So I said to him, well, it's simple. Why don't we, your step number 1 is to get a driving license. Step number 2 is to get a little van. Step number 3 is to start, because this is his other thing. He keeps saying that nobody would give him a job because he's now got a criminal record. I said, well, you're looking for jobs in the wrong place then. You know, if somebody wants you, if you like gardening and somebody wants you to cut their garden, nobody's asking you as a prerequisite question, have you got a criminal record? If you're applying for a job with a big corporation or a big business, then yes, there's a box you're going to have to tick and you're going to have to put that down. So I said to him, to me, it's simple. Get a driving license, get a van, go door to door knocking, go really back to basics, start handing cards out. And but he just doesn't get it. For weeks, I've been trying to go through it with him and he just absolutely does not get it.
Well, it's like Timpson's. That's one of their main employment routes, is to get people out. That's because stuff. I don't know about the story why he does it, but that's one of his giving people a second chance.
So I'm actually paying for this guy's driving license now. So I'm paying for his driving tuition. And I said to him, you miss one driving license, the deal's off. You're one lesson, the deal's off. I don't want no excuses. If I find out from the driving instructor that you have rearranged, cancelled, or missed one driving lesson, the deal's off. Yes, and it's off the table, gone forever. You've got to show up. He's got a repetitive driving license twice a week at exactly the same time. I said, you've got to show up at that point, at that place, to meet your driving instructor. And if you miss it on one occasion, the deal's off. He's done 3 driving lessons so far, so we'll see how we get on.
That's. But it's. I've come up against this before, where you want to help people, and then see how you put some guidelines in place, and then they let you down. And but I've seen that happen, and it's just like, why? Like if I had someone.
Well, there's the saying, isn't there? You can take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink, and that is it. The drinking part is the motivation and desire. So how do we bottle up that motivation and desire? Let's crowdsource the ideas. I can hear loads of flashing going on this morning. I've got no. Can you see who that is?
I can hear Freya and our children.
So I'm going to get a fresh page on this notepad that I've got in front of me, my nice Fortitude notepad. For those of you that know, you know. And we'll start a list, shall we? So who's flashing? Ashley, keep your eye out on that. How do we create motivation and desire? I'd love to know your top tips for that. And we're going to try and get a top 10 list. And then at about 7:30 this morning, we've got Simon Alexander, who's got a book out called Energize, which is all about creating motivation and energy and managing your energy. So he's going to be talking to us for around about an hour after that. So let's go for it. Ash? Freya. Good morning, Freya.
Good morning. Happy Friday. Sorry. So I was going to say, have you thought about finding out what his love language is and how he communicates? Because he sounds quite action driven, like rewards based. So that would be my first step, is to find out how he likes to communicate and then marry up the same way that you do. So he feels that he's being responded to. But I'm going to bounce offline. 2 seconds.
Actionable steps. I'm just trying to think, because you'd say understanding someone's love language, but you could go down to all the reasons. Like, you could
the problem is, this is where it's got to be kept really simple. These top 10 steps have got to be really simple, because if you overcomplicate it, you lose their attention. Like, I've seen it in practice. You start going quite deep down the personal development route with them, and they're just like, what language are you talking?
Because you could say a simple thing like, "What's your why? Why do you want to do it?" Like it's. And the thing is, it's like, sometimes I don't know. And then you think, does going...
I think getting out of your surroundings is one. So that echo chamber that he's been put in and that he lives in.
Your circle.
Changing your circle, getting out of it. I think Sarah is flashing. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning. I was just thinking, I was going to say what you just said, Paul, actually, getting around people who are achieving. Because I think, and trying to go back to what he wanted years ago, before all this stuff happened. Because I think when you're a kid and you speak to kids, like if I speak to my grandchildren, they will say things like, I want to be a doctor, because they see something on YouTube or whatever, but they believe that they can achieve that. And I think during life, that is what changes people, because we're always being told, like when we're at school, if you're looking out the window, I'm sure there's people in this room that would have said when they were at school, they were always told not to daydream. Well, that's exactly what you've got to do. You've got to actually think of things that you can never, ever achieve, or because when you're a child, you don't have these barriers. It's only as we grow older that people are continually telling us that we can't do something. So maybe take him to places that, will light his fire again, I think, and just being around. And the only way you can do that is being around other people that are achieving, and see what can be accomplished, and take away his excuses, because that's what all this is when people decide that they can't do something. It's because they've been told it over and over through the years, and now it's a learned experience, isn't it? That's just my take on it. So maybe, put him around people that are.
Take away excuses. I like that one, because that's you come against that. So if you take away the excuses, because that's what they come up with. That's what someone like that will come up with. Yeah, but, and it's like,
yeah. On Monday, I had a really frank conversation, because I was listening to him. There was a few of them, like sort of group work, group coach, like not group coaching, but group. We was all sitting talking in a group, and I was listening to them, and everything's always about what somebody else is going to give them, and that made me think: is this a generational shift? Like, it's all about what somebody else is going to give them, not what they can do for themselves.
But I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think that is exactly what happens now. I mean, the whole education scheme is built around that. Where we were kids, I remember when, I came up against, or I'm sure everybody in this room has come up against things where people see problems now as being something that's bad, and actually challenges and problems will make us who we are today. So I think it's just changing that thinking around it. In fact, if you don't have problems, how do you grow? And that everyone's looking for the outcome rather than the journey as such. I know that's a bit sort of like cliche, but actually, I'm older, and I know that every day when you get up and something that you have to problem solve only grows you to be the better person, and that's what lights your fire. And if there's nothing actually there that you're having to solve, and you've already just said it, I mean, everything that he needs is given to him. So actually he's got to a point where he doesn't actually have to think about anything and have to strive for the next thing, whereas I would say the majority of people in this room have had lots of challenges, and they've had to be able to work through those challenges, and that then only builds you as a person and grows you as a person. And actually, the bigger the challenges you have, and I think you said it, Paul, a long time ago, when they say about achievers, they're normally the people that have had some of the most difficultest times in their lives because they've had to have overcome so much. And I think that maybe go back to him and say he's quite lucky to have had all those things that have happened to him, because he's had to actually think about the next thing, whereas there's lots of young people that are spoon-fed. And I mean, I get kids that I have parents that will ring us up and say, I can't get Johnny out of bed, can you come and get him out of bed? Well, no, that's your job, isn't it? You're the person that should be saying, get out of bed and get to school or get to college or get to wherever you've got to go. And they're worried, like even to the fact where I'll have them say, he can't come today because I don't want them to go on the train on their own. Well, when I was, younger, I had to get to school. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. I do think, I'm not saying everybody in this generation are like that, but
No.
I do think there is a element that we've mollycoddled a lot of kids, and that's why they are where they are. So I think we've got to go back to basics, explain to them that the harder their lives are, the better it is for them. They're probably the more likely to be the ones that will achieve, and they can either make that the reason for not doing it or make it the reason for doing it. So that's just my thing.
Brilliant. Nigel Farage, I don't agree with everything that Nigel Farage says, but he calls it the Snowflake Generation, doesn't he? And do you know what? I witnessed it because this guy, I said, look, you've got to
Dan Pena's Snowflake.
Step number one is get your driving license. Step number two is get out there, put yourself about, just start walking down the road, knocking on doors, asking people want their grass cut. If that's what you want to do, that's what you need to go and do. Do you know what his response was? Oh, no, man, that's not good for my anxiety, and it's not good for my mental health. Right?
Totally. That's what I get every single day.
And I said, what? And staying where you are in your little room, paying your rent of 80 quid a month, having to go and scrap around for cash on hand to go to the shop to buy your food is good for your anxiety and your mental health. And his answer was yes. He saw himself as comfortable where he was, that didn't want to push beyond that point.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's what Sarah was saying. When we was younger, like you see, my mum's in the audience, but the way we got disciplined,
Why does she come in? Does she come in to check up on you every morning?
Oh yeah,
keep tabs.
Well, yeah, I was really ill on Mother's Day, wasn't I? Do you remember when I said I was really ill? And she's literally hounding me like I'm waiting for my dinner. But anyway, you see about the generational change. It's like when you was younger, the discipline that you got as a kid seems a lot different to today's world. Does that make sense without saying it? If you I
didn't really get any discipline. I just got the door was opened in the morning, and I was told not to come back until it was dark. That was probably about it.
No, but what I'm saying is, if you misbehaved, what I'm saying is, you respected your elders when you were younger.
Yeah, I get. Yeah,
and it's like there's a lot more. I see in children, they get away with murder. I think, if I spoke to my mum or dad like that when I was a kid, literally, I was running. And the last few weeks, my whole entire thought process, because if you look at people at two ends of the spectrum, so say you take this guy that I've been speaking about all morning, and then you take people that come from a wealthy upbringing, like my kids. My concern for my kids as they grow up is how do you bottle and create that desire and that motivation in them? Yeah, and then the concern for this group of people that I've had the opportunity to work with is how do you create the motivation and desire in those guys? Because for anybody to achieve anything, and I know success means different things to different people. So not everybody is going to be, become a millionaire. I understand that. But take this guy, for instance, just to be able to support himself and not be supported by aid from other people should be his target and his motivation. But you just can't seem to get that to ring true. Yeah, and if he's got his casework or whatever you called him.
But it's not just him. This is a pattern that I've seen across lots of them. So it's the same. It's the same patterns of behaviour. It's the same thought process. It's the same conditions. It's like a repeatable, and this is just a small group from that demographic. So how many of people are out that, you know, like we say, I think it's a generational issue. But anyway, we are talking, how do you create motivation and desire? I'd love to, whilst you're here listening, I'd love for you to really try and distill your guidance and advice, so we can get almost like a bullet point top 10 list that we can try and formulate of how you create motivation and desire.
There's some big messages in the back channel. I'll have a read of them while you take some from stuff. Oh, you've not got your phone in front of you. Who wants to jump in and flash? Dave.
Hi,
Dave.
guys. Morning.
Good morning, Dave. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. So I was at my local college 2 weeks ago, and I was talking to 17-year-olds. And the first 2 hours was like pulling teeth. And it got to the end of it, and I literally said, just in my nice, polite, grumpy way, I was like, listen, I'm not being paid to be here. If you guys don't want to help, I don't have to help you. And I literally said it, and the teacher looked at me shocked, but I'm just not used to talking, like, lightly walking around. And some kid went, oh, no, I do want help. And it was really interesting. About one little turning point, they were just so used to it. And the next 2 hours was great. But I think here's one of the big things, which might be controversial to some people. I think a lot of the time, the people that we might necessarily be trying to help look at us, or maybe like yourself, Paul, you're really successful, but if they can't see that what you're saying will work for them, not just at you, but in general, you're successful, you've already made the money. If they think that we're very, very different, they feel that it's not necessarily for them. I think there's a huge amount of people online, like Ryan Stewman and loads of other that are really successful entrepreneurs now that have been to jail, that talk in very similar ways that a lot of youth do. And I think for a lot of it, I think there's such a disconnect with it. I believe there's a lot of entitlement. I do. I think there's some great people out there that are very, very driven as well. But I think if we're trying to turn the taps on for people that have never been inspired in their life by anything, the only way that a lot of those people are going to ever become inspired is by continual exposure to people that they relate to that have been through their path and done it. It's very easy for us to talk about, and I love hearing people talk about things like love languages and a lot of the other stuff. But if people genuinely have never heard that type of language before, it's like our grandparents telling us how great we had it before. Do you remember how we all acted?
Yeah.
Like when we all got told, well, oh my God, you don't know how good you've got it. We were like, and what happened to our ears? They just shut off. And we end up having that same thing, and we're turning into our parents. And we're doing exactly the same thing. And we've got to think back to when we were younger, what would have actually motivated us? What did motivate us when we were at that stage, but things didn't? Yeah, we all got a smack. My man used to smack me, and I think that's good. No. But there's a level of respect that I had for him, but that wasn't a motivational thing for me becoming successful or being driven. Like I wanted stuff. And I think a lot of the time, the parents, I've done it with my own kids. There was points where I was like, I've just ended up providing too much for my kids, where now they're going through a time of learning, shall we say, where a lot of that stuff's been took away. And now they're realizing the fact of, oh crap, I actually had it quite good with a cleaner and with this and with that. And now I'm cleaning the toilet, like all this stuff. And I think we do it. And a lot of the reason I think there's a generational problem is a lot of the time the parents have ended up spoiling them. I don't think it's the kids' faults. I think a lot of the time kids have even been spoiled so much that they haven't had that burning desire. And I think if we want to break that burning desire, a lot of the time, we've got to expose them. And a lot of the time, it won't be us that are the right people for that. Because a lot of the time, we might seem too distant, like we're from another planet, that they can't relate. So I think a lot of it is that exposure to people that they can actually relate to that have gone through that. But again, I don't think you can motivate people that don't want to be motivated. And I don't think you can help everyone.
Yeah. There's, like you said, there's some good messages going on in the chat, isn't there? I was just trying to read them. There's a good one from Rob, actually. Rob's put that parents are fearful to put boundaries in place when raising kids today, which I think is true. So kids grow up just thinking that everything is, they can do everything, like, you know, do anything they want. There's no boundaries there. And lack of discipline.
Yeah, it is. I think discipline's one of the big things, because you need discipline in everything you do. Like, and if you're set free, like, Yeah, I don't know.
Do you know one thing I've noticed, and this is not to, I have to pick my words carefully of what I say here. So I've had 4 kids, as you know, not personally had them. My wife has. I've co-parented them is probably the best way to describe it. My eldest is 13 now, and my youngest is 2. Okay. And one thing I've noticed, and this I think goes down to maybe parenting, I wouldn't necessarily say parenting standards, but maybe, like you say, that lack of boundaries. We made a point with all of our kids of just from a very early age, we had certain standards and targets that we in our heads said that they wanted to hit, right? And we'd say to ourselves, so potty training was one of them, for instance. Let me give you that as an example. So at 2 years old, before 2, all of my kids are potty trained. So we're going through it at the moment with my youngest one. He's 2 on Monday. And he's basically around about done. Not nighttime, but daytime done. Nighttime will probably take another 6 months or something, yeah? But it will be done. It will be done. My wife's got friends who have got kids that are older. They've left it later in life to have kids. Okay, so we had our first child at 22, 23, something like that. I have to do the maths. 12 years ago, whenever that was. 13 years ago. We've got friends in our circle that we've been friends with for the whole entire sort of adult life, who are now having kids in their 30s, their first child, right? And the difference is, I guess, in discipline or boundaries. Like, I know of more than one child over 5 that is not clean of a nighttime.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And when you speak to the parent, you hear how the parents describe it. It's, oh, well, they'll do it when it's right for them. That's the response. Yeah, they'll do it when it's right for them. So if that's the intention with something like a basic sanitary requirement in life, and what Rob said is right, there's that, that's a simple boundary to me that has to be put in place from a young age. If you don't put that boundary in place, how much does that affect? Just by that simple phrase, they'll do it in life. They'll do it when it's right for them.
Yeah, but they're meant to be.
Now, I'm not saying I'm a parenting expert, by the way.
But they're meant to be guiding, but they're letting no boundaries happen.
Yeah.
But I agree with that. Well, my mum's blowing my phone up, just saying, I used to drop you off at the station, saying, don't come back from London till you've got a job. If the only way you was getting a day off school was if you was dying, Mum, that's why I bunked school a lot, because you didn't let me have the time off. But what I'm saying is, I remember that. Like, I used to have to go in the car and get dropped to the station with her dodgy driving. Like, in the end, I used to bicker about her dodgy driving. That she made me get a bus in the end, and I used to have to just go up to London every day. Because I knew what I wanted to do, and then. Yeah, they sort of guided me, sent me to the station. Don't come back until you got a job. So it was like, and then I used to still moan. I used to moan about her driving and not realising that she's actually dropping me off to the station, paying for my train fare. But then don't come home till you got a job. And I was like, okay, I'm running around London just knocking on doors, and it did happen. But yeah,
what was your first ever job?
First ever job, really, was in a post room.
Please talk to the microphone.
My first ever real job started in a post room.
Post room in a city.
Yeah, opening.
And that was what, 16?
17.
17.
17, yeah. So
did you have a part-time job before that? Doing anything?
I really tried and thought, no, it's not for me. Like, I was 1 or 2 days, went into retail. It was like, no, it's not me. And then I just was like, and what it is, I sort of knew what I wanted to do, because everyone who had the nicer things around my way all worked in the city. So I was like, just got to get up here. And then, I used to sit and open mail and put it on the broker's desk. I used to go and get their coffees. Like, where I was so tenacious and I just banged on doors, the woman made a job for me that wasn't actually a job. Like, so she was like, I'll give you a chance. And she was like, yeah, you can open their mail and be help and assistant to them if you want. I want to give you a chance. And then 3 weeks later, I got out the post room. So there was but it's like, if you went to someone today.
See, I don't know, but these people I've spoken to are saying young people now will say that those opportunities are not available.
Oh, 100% are.
But that's my response. They always are. You just got to find them. But they'll automatically be told no. They're not. The opportunities aren't out there unless you've got a degree. The opportunities aren't out there. Well, I know many successful people who haven't got a degree, and they all manage to find the opportunities. So you could go in so many directions with this argument, and I can already see with the chat that it's doing that. So
if you knock on the right door and it's a successful company, and they can see something in you, and you're offering to even do stuff for free just to get your foot in the door, they will give you an opportunity. Why would they not? Like, if they can see something in you, you display good character traits for their company. Like, I said to him, like, you ain't got to pay me. You haven't got to pay me. Just let me get in. And he, like, yeah, like, what? Like, okay, I probably knocked on about 50 doors to get one. But it only took me a week.
Yeah.
But it's like something.
So in the meantime, I'm not going home for that week. Did you sleep out on the street?
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, if I won't, the problem was I had friends that were already up the city. And I mean, when they were 16, 17, on like first getting salaries, I mean, like they was on like 20 grand a year at 17. I know it doesn't sound a lot now, but imagine walking into that. They were partying. I was joining on their parties. And so when she's like, don't come home till you got a job, it was like, I do 10 door knocking, and then I'll go and join them down the pub. But then I put joining them down the pub was trying to get in the door with them. So it was like, but yeah, no, it's like, I don't think some people would take a job like that today. Like, I don't think, like, I sat there and opened envelopes and put the letters.
This is the other thing as well, isn't it? Is what jobs people are prepared to take. Yeah, that's the thing. You know,
the opportunities in, like I used to literally open people's letters, so the brokers didn't even have to open the letter. Like, but what I'm saying is, I see the opportunity if I could get in front of them. But people were like, I'm not being a post boy. But it was short lived.
Right. So we are talking this morning. How do you find, and how would you encourage somebody to find motivation and desire? What are the things that you do to yourself to continuously motivate yourself? Sometimes it's if somebody asked me the question, what do you do to motivate yourself? I would say absolutely nothing. I seem to be driven, but there's obviously some stuff that I do to when you break it down that keeps me creative, I guess, or keeps us motivated, and the want for more, that need for desire. So we're trying to formulate a list. We're up to number 2 so far of 10 tips to stay motivated and find desire if you're absolutely lacking it. So who's flashing? I can hear loads of people flashing. Are you keeping an eye out, Ashley? Jagdeep, going to come to you. Then we'll go to Ryan, and then we'll move down. Jagdeep, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Great topic as usual. I actually did put in the chat that with this guy, get him to listen to some of the Winners Club interviews that you've had. 1 second, let me just shut the door. My dog's barking. Get him to listen to some of the interviews, and that can be really inspiring, because I've had a couple of people who've come in my direction, and I've just sort of directed them to, surrounding yourself with the right-minded people. And that guy that you're talking about, Paul, it is sad, because the more you spoke about him, the more I felt that if there's nothing lifting him, he's going to go through a lot more pain and another stage of pain before he really realizes what he really wants in life. But for me, number 1 is surrounding myself with the right like-minded people. That is number 1 for me, because I feel, even coming in the Winners Club, I come here every morning and I put it in the group yesterday that, is it me or is it every day something gets said in the room that you walk away feeling, wow. And that's why I said, to listen to some of the interviews. Lewis Alsop was one of the most inspiring interviews I heard. His journey from, being a school dropout, ending up in Dubai. But that's my share this week, today. Thank you.
Thanks, Jagdeep. Do you know where I went with this over the last week? What I spent my time thinking about? I thought to myself, right, okay, if I can create like a little, because there's almost like there needs to be, and there probably is a charity that does this, but I couldn't find it. There almost needs to be a gap that takes, like, this group of young offenders, for instance. They see that there's no future. They're apparently struggling to get work and struggling to get jobs, and apparently no one will employ them because of their record and blah, blah, blah. Not all, I personally believe they're just stories they're telling themselves. Yeah. But anyway, so there's these boundaries in place for them. So I'm thinking there almost needs to be like an organisation that employs them, that gives them the work, but then gives them the guidance, and almost gets them back on a stable footing, and more than just an employer, gives them the guidance and the counselling to get them out of their environment whilst they're working, and puts them on a stable footing. That was where I was going with it. And I thought, do I want another job?
but they say a lot of people these people have probably been in prison, they've done a bit of time. They reckon that the reoffending is so high. But then this is probably one of the...
We can see why. Take this guy. He's being actively told by the person that's responsible for his guidance, don't get a job, because if you get a full-time job, we're going to have to put your rent up from 80 quid to £900. So don't get a full-time job. And his maximum earning capacity, probably a month, is 1,000 to 1,500 quid. Right? Probably. There or thereabouts. Or minimum wage, get 15 grand a year or something like that. Okay? So that's probably the maximum he's going to get at this moment in time. So he's being actively told, don't go and do that. Just stay in your current situation. It's not beneficial for you to get a job.
But we didn't have that. That may be one of the biggest drivers. If I didn't...
And that's a government organisation that are telling him that, by the way.
If I didn't have money in my pocket, and I'd probably asked my mum for enough pocket money and things like that, I was literally cutting my granddad's grass. I was literally painting his decking. I was just doing anything because I didn't have that. It was like, if I wanted to go out for the night, I had to go and earn 20 quid to go and cut someone's grass, paint things, and do that all day. Or my mum was just trying to get rid of me, like just to send me around everyone else's family members' houses. But that's another contributing factor.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if I didn't do it, I didn't have any money. So it was like, and then I couldn't do things that all my friends were doing.
Ryan, you was flashing. Going to come to you next.
Morning, guys. Morning, everybody. Like, what a conversation this is. I could probably share forever on this one. So, I'm going to start with what Ashley mentioned there a minute ago, actually, about sort of starting at the bottom and the opportunities. So, I believe opportunities are abundant. They're like oxygen in the air. So nobody walks out their front door in the morning and says, oh, is there enough oxygen to go round between us all? But why is it that these young adults always say, oh, there's not enough opportunities? It's because they're not actively going out there and looking for these opportunities, but also they're letting their ego stopping them from starting. Because they want to be, say, the manager of, let's say, John Lewis. They want to earn 100 grand at John Lewis, but they don't want to start by stacking those bloody shelves. So they're letting their ego, they're saying, oh, I'm too good for that. No, you're not. You've got to start at the bottom. So that's that to start with. But yeah, there's so many things that I can say on this. Like, you need to have a compelling future, right? Because if you've got if you don't know where you're going in life, any road is going to get you there. You need to know what you want. Like your desire, it's got to be a desire. Your desire to change must be greater than your desire to stay the same. But I believe it only comes with the pain. Like, there's a certain pain threshold that's going to make you change, because no one else is going to make you change. Like, Paul, you mentioned about the lead the horse to water. I added a bit to that. So you can lead a horse to water and you can't make it drink. However, you can show the horse the benefits of drinking that water by drinking it yourself on a daily basis. So nobody's going to change, you're not going to be able to change someone else's life. They're only going to change it when their pain is so bad that they force themselves to change. Because the moment you realise that the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change is the exact moment when your actions overcome your anxieties. So that individual needs to have a compelling future. They need to see where they're going to go, because that's what's going to make them want to get up and change their fucking life, seriously. But you don't start with motivation. Motivation comes along the way from taking that action. So you need to arm yourself, ARM, actions, results, motivation. You take that action, you get a specific result, and hopefully that result will be something that you want, or you like the result. It could be pay, it could be fulfillment in a job. And then you get the motivation, which eventually will turn to momentum, and it'll make you keep going and going and going. But I think David said it a minute ago, which was brilliant. These young adults, they're growing up in this world of entitlement. Like, I see it with my brother. I see it with my older brother. Like, he's literally entitled, and I believe that comes a lot from parenting, the childhood programming as well, but also the surroundings. Like, who you surround yourself with, you become. You literally become what you both consciously and unconsciously consistently consume. So like for me, I surrounded myself with a similar people, but I didn't say absorb that shit. Like when I was younger, I never absorbed any of it. So whatever you absorb, you're going to become that. Like we all heard you become the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. You need to change your surroundings, get out there. But at the end of the day, I'm going to end on this. At the end of the day, I believe it comes down to personal values. I'll tell you a quick little story just as I end. So there's a story about 2 twin brothers, and their dad was an alcoholic. He died an alcoholic, and then one of the brothers went on to becoming an alcoholic and sort of chucked his life away and just drunk himself almost to death. And the other one had become a really successful businessman. And then when they were asked, the one that had become an alcoholic said, "Why are you an alcoholic?" "Because my father was." The other one said, "Why are you successful?" And he said, "Because my father was an alcoholic." So it all comes down to those personal values, I believe. So that's my share, and I'm done speaking.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ryan. We'll try and get through as many as we can for the next 15 minutes or 16 minutes before our guest comes on. So give me a flash of microphones if you want to come in on the conversation.
Off the back of what Ryan said, it sparked a thought. When I was younger, it was like, I always got told, if you can't get a seat at the table, serve water. And that's good. I've never heard that one before. Like, if you can't get a seat at the table, serve water. And it was like, and then from that, it will allow you to get into circles. Like it gets you in the perimeter and gets you like, and it was like, because if you that's where like it was like, if you can't be seen, you can't be heard, you will be forgot about. And if you can't get a seat at the table, serve water. And that was something I got told early on to get up into the city, and it was just like, yeah, I'll do anything. And then that's what gave opportunities, and I sort of lived by that.
So we are talking this morning, how do you create motivation and desire in somebody that probably hasn't found it yet? And we're trying to come up with a list of 10, really. We're not really getting very far with that list of 10, to be honest with you. I'll probably have to listen back to try and highlight the 10. So who's flashing there? Let me see. We'll go Susan, then we'll go Nichelle and Sarah. Susan, good morning.
Good morning, Paul. Morning, everyone. I think you're struggling with that list, Paul, because you just can't, is the answer. You just can't create motivation, and you just can't create desire. It just doesn't work like that. It comes to you when you are inspired. David actually hit the nail on the head earlier talking about inspiration. This is what I believe anyway. Once you have desire by being inspired, then the motivation then comes. So I don't think it is a case of a bullet point. But listening to this morning, I've been kind of smiling away, like especially when you said with your kids, Paul. Like obviously, I've got 3 daughters. And it's just bloody confusing, isn't it? Like they are confused. My oldest one, I'm not going to lie. We all the school system kind of gears you up to academics, get good results, get a good job. You know, this is how it is designed, right? The standard school structure to then do your GCSEs, do your A-levels, go to university. That's what people congratulate in this day and age. Well done, you've gone to university, you've got a degree. And then the people like us, right? So in this room, like the majority of us, the entrepreneurs, or you know, like myself, that's done a lot of mindset work. I am really encourager of following your dreams, right? Which we all do here. So it's kind of like, and they all live their passions. They've all done well. Whatever my girls have said to me they want to do, they've done it. But equally, they find joy in the jobs. Like my daughter teaches dance, which she absolutely loves, which is her dream job. She performs, which is her absolute dream. But she also works in a bar, which she absolutely loves. But she realises she has to because she's got to pay her bills. So it's about the balance is what I'm getting at. And it's about finding joy. And I know that sounds so airy-fairy and like, oh yeah, finding the joy. But it all comes back to personal development and training your mindset. When you can find good things and positive things in the shit that we all know we have to do to pay the bills, everything changes, your perception changes. And I think the kids are so confused and young adults are so confused. And let's face it, we're all well confused sometimes as well, is that we're told on one hand, there's no discipline, there's no structure, there's no, work hard, work hard, work hard. And then on the other hand, we're told you don't need to work hard anymore. You can work smart, you can invest, you can do this. And it's all well and good if you've done the training to have that mindset. You know, some people, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then everything will change for you. No, it's not just a case of reading one book or hearing one quote or, you know, posting loads of quotes on bloody Instagram. You have to actually do the work to adjust your mindset. I think the reason that kids don't have this in school, and we all fight it, and, you know, Nichelle's new school sounds amazing, and I've tried to introduce things into my kids' local schools. It just doesn't happen, because imagine if at school we were all taught this mindset training and the kids read books like that and we all done meditation, and, you know, we'd have a whole world of these entrepreneurs going around living their dreams, and all the jobs that needed to be done would never be filled. They just wouldn't be filled. So there's always going to be the balance. But if, like an entrepreneur like we all are in here, and then it's a case of, okay, what can we do to live our dreams? You don't just create it. It will come to you, like David said, from being inspired. So you have to actively take the action to put yourselves in different situations, be around different people, read all these different books, go to all these different courses, and actually take action to surround yourself. Otherwise, all you know is what you know, which will be your perception. And therefore, desire may never come. For example, they won't mind me saying, but they're not in this room, the girls that I work with in the office, they don't really understand me. I've got a nice house, a nice job, I've got a lot of money coming in. I want to create everything I want to create on my own, okay? And they're like, why? You've got life cushy. Like, what's that about? They just want to go on 2 holidays a year and they're very, very happy with their lives. They lead a very nice life. I'm like, that's not for me. I want to travel the world. I want to have millions coming in. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to serve, and I want to be able to teach everything I know to thousands. And they're like, what the F? Why? So it's all about perceptions and how you live. But for me, the reason I want to is because I have that desire, and the desire is just there from inspiration, whatever you want to call it. But probably from adversities in my life when I was younger, that life's too short. But the desire is there for me. So because the desire is there, I haven't achieved that yet because I did not have the belief. So until any dreams that you've got, any goals that you've got, it has to be the desire that you have to want to do it, like really want to do it. And it has to be matched with belief. Because if the self-doubt is there, it overrides the desire. So self-doubt plus desire, you can wish all you want to wish in the world, but if you don't believe you're ever going to get there, you're never going to get there, because it creates a negative emotion. So it doesn't drive you, which creates a motivation. But if you've got the desire plus the inspiration plus the belief, it's like a no-brainer. It might take a little while to get there, but any obstacles that come, you won't give up because the desire is strong enough, if that makes sense. So you jump over them obstacles. You won't even see them as obstacles. You'll see them as lessons, which is what we all say, you know, life happens for you, blah, blah, blah. You'll see them as a good thing. It's, oh, shit, well, how can I pivot and change that? Because my outcome is inevitable, because I know I'm going to get there. But the minute you doubt yourself, and this is why I think kids give up so easily, because they just don't believe they can have it. So they just give up. They go to the next thing. They give up. They go to the next thing. So it's got to be completely matched of all three. And then that's what, and thank God Adam said it yesterday, because otherwise people think I'm crazy. It creates the vortex, which means when you're in your most highest vibration of, like, when you feel so good, you know, when you're people, Tony Robbins calls it the flow. You're like, yes, everything's working out for me. I love it. I love what I'm working towards. You've got good people around you. You feel your highest. And then any problems don't seem that bad, do they? But when you're in a low vibration and you're like, it's out of fear or desperation, right? How many of us have got to the point where we need that money coming in? So we start acting from a desperate point, and people feel that. So things start not working out for us. And then they start falling for us because we're not in the vortex, we're not in this good point of being, or the flow, as Tony says it. So it's all about adjusting your mindset. So there are no real bullet points other than do the bloody work, start meditating, surround yourself with good people, go back to personal training, do a course. People laugh at courses online, but you know what? You can read a book and not take it all in. If you do an online course, at least you're going to get tested at the end and you might actually retain it. So just do these things that are so easily accessible for us, and you won't even realize it initially, but after like 6 months, a year and a half, you'll start to really act different because you'll be thinking different. And so that's the key. But I think it's confusing, Paul, is my answer. The kids today are told one thing and then another thing, and unless they do the work, they're never going to be ready when they're in adulthood.
Brilliant. We could spend another hour discussing Susan's points that she's raised there. Brilliant, Susan.
Sorry, Paul.
No, that's fine. What you described with the school system about and the situation as if we was all entrepreneurs who would do the average jobs, and that's exactly what the schooling system was designed for, wasn't it? It was designed to find workers for industry. That was what it was. That was what it was created for. It was to educate people with basic skills so they could go and work in low-level positions within industry. So, yeah, interesting debate and conversation. Nichelle, you are you was flashing, or you are flashing.
I'm ready.
We've got a guest at 7:30. Just prerequisite.
How long have I got? Right. Okay. Right, so amazing points made by Susan, and yes, I agree, we could have a whole conference on this. Education, education, education. 15 years ago, Tony Blair said, you know, the gold standard was to try and get everybody to university. That failed. The system fails the kids, and what we've got to do is make them... So like Ryan said, you can't lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink, but you've got to make them thirsty, right? You've got to make them find their sweet spot. You know, the problem with schools is that they don't have enough opportunities to explore different areas of themselves. So, you know, are they interested in, I don't know, sport? Are they interested in being a mentor to younger kids? You know, what is their sweet spot? What do they love doing? What they know they love doing is hanging out on the streets, you know, getting drunk, doing drugs, going and hanging out with their gangs, because that's you got to make them feel. What are they feeling? That feeling of being in a gang and being wanted because no one else wants them at school, or the teachers have told them that they're not worthy, or their parents might have told them they're not worthy. They know what that feels like, so they go into a place where they feel safe and they can protect themselves and each other. So not all kids obviously are like that, not all young adults. Sorry, I've just been running. And the other thing is that, you know, there's plenty of content out there. We can tell everybody, you know, we come into these rooms and there's content flowing left, right and centre. And we can be in an environment where the content is good, the intention is good, it's all clean, it's all positive, it's all high vibe, it's all, you know, moving us all along the pathway in the right way. But nobody does that at school for these young adults. So, yeah, it goes right back to education, it goes right back to the environment, and you've got to give them hope. Not every young adult is entitled. There are some amazing freaking young people out there that are doing phenomenal things. There are lots of conscious, switched on, awake kids who are like, I'm not subscribing to this bullshit. There are more kids that have dropped out of university these last 2 years and have gone, I'm not up for this. Because they're just seeing, you know, my daughter's at university in London. For 9 months, for 9 weeks and 3 months period, her university lecturers, after 18 months of COVID, have been on strike. And you're just looking at the adults going, sorry, you're in education for what reason? All these young adults have either been on a gap year, you know, like, which was screwed up because they couldn't travel, or give back to the community. And these young adults have gone through COVID. They've been locked in their halls and not been allowed to socialise. They've not really had the end of their rite of passage from A-levels, when they didn't even sit their A-levels and do what normal kids do after A-levels. So the young adults and the kids at university have had a really rough ride for the last 18 months. And then the lecturers are going on strike. Oh, that's all about you, is it? You know, I'm sorry, but adults need to be more freaking accountable. And no, there's no rule book for parents, and there's no guidebook and no, you know, next step 1, step 2, like there is for an entrepreneur and scaling up and building a business. And that's also a problem. So we need to grow parents, educate parents, we need to support parents, and we need to be joined up with the schools. And that's what my vision is. So Paul, back to you.
There we go. That was, we've had 2 very powerful rants. Would you call them rants, or would you call them passionate?
Rants.
Yeah, rants. There we go. Rants. 2 powerful rants. I think we could go on and we could talk about this conversation for absolute hours. If you're just joining us, welcome to Breakfast with Winners. We've been discussing how do you find motivation and desire in a group of people that don't necessarily know that it even exists yet, and that's what we've been sort of discussing. We've gone down rabbit holes of education and how people are raised, parenting. We've gone off in all sorts of directions. Meanwhile, Ashley's just staring down at his phone.
I'm just organising the stage to bring the guest.
Fantastic. We've got a guest joining us in a couple of minutes. We've got time for one more share on this before we go to a reset. Wow, look, it's like a Christmas tree. Everybody's flashing up. I did say I'd go to Sarah, so I'd go to Sarah, and then we'll carry on the conversation after we've had our guest on. So stick around, everybody. Those of you that want to contribute to the conversation, because we will continue it. Sarah, back to you.
Sorry, I couldn't get the mic off. I think there's only two things that motivates people, and that's one is fear and one is love. And I think when the guy you were describing, his motivation is probably fear of what he doesn't want, and I think that's what you go back to, and then you build on the rest. With all the kids that start with us, I do like a money pot. So what I do is I go through what they want to achieve. So you've already done that with him, and he gets what he wants to achieve, but is that really it? So then you need to go back to what scares him, what does he not want, and when you find out what he doesn't want, then you can then take him into what he does want. That's what I would do. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sarah. We're going to do a quick reset and we'll be back after this.
You are listening to Breakfast with Winners. Exclusive content direct from the Winners Club. If you are enjoying the conversation, click on the green Monopoly house at the top of the screen right now and join the thousands of winners already in our community. For even more actionable content and powerful lessons, download the free companion app now. Just search for the Winners Club in the App Store or Google Play. For more information about the Winners Club and how to become part of our growing community, head to thewinnersclub.club. Now, back to the show.
So, guys, good morning. So, Breakfast with Winners, we have Simon on here. So, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be going into an interview with Simon very, very, very soon. But, yeah, let's rock and roll. Let's get into it. Simon, first things first, I can't see you at the moment.
Hold on, I've got to press some buttons. Bear with me a minute.
Wait till I can see Simon. Simon is there. Guys, what I would say is if everyone can go up to the top of the room and click the link, you will see Simon. Do you want to quickly say hello and I'll give you an introduction into the room and then we get this interview off and away. So do you want to say hello? Everyone there, everyone jumping onto the live stream to see Simon. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, my friend. Hello, Paul. Hello, Ashley. Good morning and a very happy Friday.
Yeah, we've been discussing this morning, Simon. You've missed it. There's been some. You probably come on the back and heard the last rant from Nichelle, but we've been discussing this morning general topics of motivation and desire and how you find it, and we've gone into sort of rabbit holes about parenting and education system and young adults and all sorts of directions. So you came into a passionate conversation, put it that way, which we've had to pause. For you. So no pressure to perform, Simon. No pressure to perform.
Oh, brilliant. So yeah, let's kick this off. So I'm gonna I'll read out Simon's bio. So he's a personal development entrepreneur, coach, and public speaker. He's worked with Sky News, BBC, London, LBC, radio. The list goes on. So what I'm actually going to do, Simon, so I don't mess anything up, can we have a bit about you and then we're going to go straight into the interview, let it come from the horse's mouth, let everyone know who you are, introduce yourself, and then we go into an interview.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for that.
Yes, so
I grew up believing that success was defined by my job title, be a banker, be a lawyer, be a doctor, be an accountant. And so I pursued the avenue of being a banker. I graduated in the middle of 2007 and started in the world of finance at what was probably the worst possible time, a year before the financial crisis. And while it was a very scary moment at the time, in hindsight, it was a beautiful blessing in disguise because it kickstarted the longest journey that I believe we as humans make, the inches from our heads to our hearts. Never an easy journey, but the most important and fulfilling that we will ever embark on. And that led me to what I now get to do today, which is to work with those in leadership positions as a coach, C-level executives, entrepreneurs, Michelin star chefs, TV presenters, deliver keynotes at some of the biggest stages in the world. And more recently, one of the positives, aside from becoming a parent for the first time during COVID, was landing a book deal with Penguin.
brilliant. So we're going to go into that book, but let's just make sure the audience understand who you are deeply. So who was the 15-year-old? Who was the young Simon? Like, where did it all start? That's what we'd like to know.
Well, a 15-year-old Simon was a very shy, introverted Chinese student. And I was the sort of person at the time that would keep my head down, focus on getting the good grades, being as close to top of the class as I could, and getting to a good college and university. And so that Simon at a 15-year-old was very different to the Simon now. And I think the life journey that I've been on has really shaped me into who I am today. Uh, for those who don't know my background, it will be very difficult for them to imagine me as an introverted, shy person, given the work that I now do today. But I think that once I started to discover the things that brought me joy, that made me feel happy, then I started to find my flow.
Brilliant. So from the introvert to becoming a coach, like what made you go into the coaching industry?
Sure. So after the financial crisis, I started to think, well, what would life be like if I could start to take back control more of my destiny? And I got curious about the world of entrepreneurship and business. I embarked in 2 early businesses which didn't work out. And then I got curious about the world of coaching because I'd always enjoyed helping other people. And I would be the person that people would ask for help whenever they went for a challenge. They wanted to speak to me. I was that sort of guide, if you will. And so I went to a 2-day event in London to learn more about coaching. And by the end of it, I wanted to sign up to study as a coach. And it would be a few more years after receiving those qualifications that I would begin that transition to working as a coach full time.
So what made you want to leave the obviously you went and done some coaching training, but then you decided to leave, I'm guessing, what is a fairly lucrative career in banking, to having to start from day one on your own. What made you want to make that step? Because we've been speaking all morning about people being comfortable and then, reaching a point of being comfortable and then not wanting to change or make themselves uncomfortable to find that next level. So what made you wanted to make yourself uncomfortable again and leave what was quite a comfortable situation in life to go and become the Simon that you are now?
I'm going to put a bit of a reframe on that, Paul, because what really helps me want to make that choice is the realization that actually staying in your comfort zone is the riskiest thing you can do, because you are sacrificing your happiness, you're sacrificing your joy, you're sacrificing who you really are. And the time that came for me to make that decision was when I was building this coaching business on the side, and I got to a point where I had 3 clients. And if I got one more client, I would not be able to keep up with the 9-to-5 job, and my coaching would suffer. So I had to make a decision. Do I continue with my daytime job and be capped at just 3 clients? Or do I quit, go into this full time and channel 100% of my energy into this? And as I listened to my heart, as I listened to the innate wisdom inside of me, I felt more excitement coming from the latter choice, to quit and to focus my energy on what was most important.
Brilliant. So tell us about the book, Simon. Tell us why the book. What's the book all about? What made you want to write that book? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. Well, in a nutshell, the book demonstrates how, by understanding how we can manage our energy better, we can transform the way we live and work. And so the book is very much about my own personal journey, from where I was to what I get to do today, but also the lessons I've learned along the way. And I never always intended to write a book. The book wasn't something that was planned. It came about after I was approached by a boutique publisher, and after sharing this experience with my wife, she does speak really that she challenged me to think bigger, and so I started to reach out to the big publishing names of Penguin, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Hay House. And fortunately, Penguin responded. They wrote back, and in January 2020, we started to have conversations about what book I could write. And that's how it started, Paul, to share the ideas I had with them. And then, fortunately, having this period where we couldn't go outside during the COVID pandemic, I had this time, as well as being a father for the first time, to write this book.
So what's why would you recommend to, because what have we got here, 151 people in the room now with us listening to this, not all on YouTube but listening via Clubhouse, which you know as well, so they're all here listening. The book is it's pre-order at the moment, isn't it? It's released later this month, is that right? 20th or 21st of April it's released.
21st, yes, so just 2 weeks to go, Paul.
So what's the underlying message that's in that book? What are people in for when they hopefully go and pre-order that? What's the reason that they're going to go and pick up a copy of Energize? Now's your time to tell the audience. And we pinned a link to the top of the Clubhouse room, actually, guys, as well. So if you won't see that on YouTube, but it's actually pinned to the top of the Clubhouse room, so you can go there and click on that to find all the information of how to pre-order the book. But yeah, what's the underlying message of the book, Simon? Tell everyone that's here listening live on Clubhouse at the moment.
Sure. Well, the short answer on why I recommend you check out the book is that it has received some fantastic endorsements from the likes of New York Times bestselling authors Simon Sinek, Marie Forleo, Marshall Goldsmith, and the former host of ITV's Loose Women, Andrea McLean. The long answer is, if you are going through a period of your life right now in which you are feeling exhausted, drained, needing a bit more energy in a particular area of your life, then this book is for you. Because by the end of the book, you will understand how to awaken your greatest sources of energy, rewire your energetic state so that you can begin to shape, shift, and transform reality in your favor, protect your personal energy, and supercharge your life.
Fantastic. And what's on the topic of conversation that we've been discussing before you came in, which I guess is related to energy, what would be your tips to harvest motivation? That's probably the best way to describe it, because we've been discussing how you can cultivate motivation and desire, which I guess is energy linked, isn't it? So what would be your tips to everyone here that's listening to how to harvest that motivation and desire?
I think the very first step to harvest that motivation and desire is literally to understand, what does success mean to you? Because so many of us are exhausted and tired, not because we're doing too much, but because we are running somebody else's race and measuring our progress against metrics determined by other people. And so we're not doing the things that give us meaning or purpose. And so when we begin to build our life around the things that mean the most to us, that is when we begin to get more motivated. That is when we begin to awaken our energy.
Brilliant. What we're going to do now, we'll open it up to questions, if the technology allows us to do it, which I think it will. We can feed through the questions to you, Simon, via Clubhouse into the YouTube feed where you're where you're with us now. So if you're listening to this on Clubhouse and you have a question you want to contribute to the questions for Simon, then give a flash of mic. Simon's recently or is launching his book Energize, which is pinned to the top of the room. Comes out later this month around the 21st of April. I think it's there. So who has 21st of April. So who has a question for Simon? Give me a flash of your microphones. Nichelle, no ranting, please. We're gonna control the rants. Go for it.
I would.
You're only
rant.
allowed one rant per day.
All right, okay, boss. I would never rant at Simon anyway. So Simon, I asked this question of JP yesterday in Beiju's room, and I'm really curious to know what sort of thought leaders think about this. So. My perception is that mankind's ego thinks he's smarter than the spirit of the soul, and that the sort of experiences and situation that we are in at the moment, having gone through COVID and all this BS about, we're going to put up the energy prices and fuel prices. Right. Sorry, that's turning into a rant. So my question is, where do you think the future is, the hope, and what's this transitional period taught you, and what do you think it's all about?
Well, first of all, Nichelle, great question. And for me, I think the most important thing that I've been taught from the COVID pandemic is, first of all, just how connected we all are. How something like the COVID pandemic impacts all of us. And that without the support of one another, we couldn't have got through and navigated these obstacles. Second, I think it is the simple things that matter the most. When we retreated into our homes, we began to appreciate the fact that we could shake hands before, we could hug someone, we could eat in a restaurant, we could have coffee with someone. And so I think once we've come out of this lockdown, we need to remind ourselves of these small things and not forget them again. And third, I think it's the importance of social impact. With regards to my work, Nichelle, I am spending a lot more time thinking about how I can get involved in social impact projects, because I'm of the belief that our value on this planet is determined by how much more we have given to the world than we have taken from it. And as an example, I end up becoming a member of the Conduit, a members club here in London, which is focused on social impact. And that is one of the places that I'm doing a book launch at the end of this month, but also to be surrounded with game changers in there who want to make this world a better place for everyone. And meeting the likes of Malala, who is a member of that club as well, to hear about the work that she does. And I think that what you said just now about energy prices and how some of these governments operate in the world, we can't rely on them being the solution. Sometimes we've got to take action ourselves to create that difference.
Yeah, I love it. I think I don't think I'd ever rely on governments to provide solutions. I think it's very clear they're incompetent. But that's another conversation, another rant for another day. But thanks for your answer, and Paul, back to you.
Nichelle, so on brand, isn't she? Every single time.
And the thing is, it's like I love it. I love Nichelle.
Anti-government rhetoric. Spot on. It's there all the time. Brilliant. Love it. Right. Okay. Questions for Simon. We've got Simon Alexandra with us here. So who has a question? Give me a flash of mics if you're in Clubhouse. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about, but just bear with us. You'll hear somebody else's voice soon. Mari, coming to you next.
Yeah, this is the second time I've been treated to Simon's presentation. Thank you so much, Simon. What I'd love to hear, and the title of your book sounds so good, because after the pandemic, I know a lot of people were out of energy. But one of the things I'd like you, if you could, because you have such a range of experience with so many different clients in your coaching, can you give us an example, a real life example of somebody that's been able to apply the principles and what the outcomes were?
Sure. So there's a great example, Mari, that I share in the book about a client that I got connected with when she was relocating from Scandinavia to London. And when she was in Scandinavia, she had just exited a business, and so she was moving to London to start a new life. And one of the reasons for doing so is that she had just come out of a marriage, and she was coming over with her two children, and she was lost about what her next steps were. She wanted to do something more. Now she had exited the business she was in the PR world, and once we started having a conversation, it became clear that her goals were bigger than who she believed she was. And so the challenge for us was to increase her level of courage, but also her belief that she had the capacity to be the person to fulfill that vision. And since we first started working together, again, you can read the story that I share in the book, but she has gone on to create multiple companies around her mission of empowering young girls. And she has even had the opportunity to speak at two United Nations events on stage to a room of delegates about the great work that she is doing.
Sounds great. That sounds really great. That's a great application of it. And a lot of us sometimes there's that incongruency between our goals and what we believe. So if the book can help us to make them be congruent, that would be great. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mari. Again, flash your microphones, please, guys. If you want to ask Simon a question, going to come to Amanda. You're flashing. Over to you.
To ask the question, when I wrote my book, it was a really cathartic exercise for me, and it allowed me to stop so many limiting beliefs about my past. I'd gone through domestic violence for a number of years in my past, and writing my book was so cathartic. And I just wondered whether writing your book, you got the same experience, and it helped you to stop any limiting beliefs that you may have had.
Great question, Amanda. I mean, it was certainly a cathartic experience because, first of all, the longest thing I'd written before this book was a social media caption or a newsletter. And so going from that to 65,000 words was a huge jump. It was like jumping in the deep water of the pool when it's your first time swimming ever. Uh, and second, it really made me reflect on my life as a whole, to revisit some of those dark moments. And as you said, it was a very cathartic experience to seek the lessons in those moments, so to see how they have shaped me into the person I've become. And as one of the ladies' story that I mentioned in the book, a person called Diana Chao, and the story is incredible, by the way, incredible story of what she has achieved. One of the statements that she shared in a TED talk, and that she told me in an interview I did with her, is that writing is humanity distilled into ink. Writing is humanity distilled into ink, and it is us understanding more about ourselves, because you can't have self development without self awareness, because you simply can't change what you're not aware of. And so knowing ourselves, especially through the form of writing, is the beginning of true wisdom.
Yeah, it really is. It really helped me to, it kind of page dump and get everything out on paper, and really helped me to evolve in so many ways. So thank you for answering that. I appreciate.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Simon. Holly, going to come to you. I can see you flashing.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Paul. Lovely to see you and hear you here, Simon. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I was working very, very late last night, and so my morning is slow. I don't know whether you referred to the person behind this book. We recently celebrated Mother's Day in the
It's
UK,
very,
or
very
Mothering
faint.
Sunday. Right, I'll move to another location. Can you hear me better?
We can hear you really well, Holly.
Yeah, just just carry on, Holly.
All right, great. Simon, we recently celebrated Mother's Day in the UK, and I unfortunately wasn't here at the beginning of the room, so I don't know whether you've talked at all about the person who is so key to your life and behind so much that you do. In chapter 2 of the book, Simon, you mention your mum. I'd love for you to share a little bit about that if you haven't already done so, but for the benefit of those of us who weren't at the beginning of your talk as well. I'm Holly, I'm done speaking.
Holly, thank you. Thank you so much for the question. And yes, I haven't shared yet about that catalyst. And you're right. It was recently Mother's Day here in the UK, and it was a period, as you know, Holly, that I get emotional about, because when I was 17 years old, I lost my mum to a tragic accident, and that really shaped me a lot into who I am today. I mean, one of the messages I often share with people is that when something like that occurs, when you've lost someone that close to you, then it it floods you with many life lessons. It floods you with many life lessons. But the one that stood out to me the most from that time of my life are the two words: "Don't wait, don't wait." Because when we embrace them, it can become our greatest antidote to regret, and the very thing that sets us on our path to fulfillment. So we mustn't forget that while knowledge may be power, action is really where the magic happens, because we've only got this one life, and we don't want to fall into this tragic scenario of living as if we're never going to die, and then to die having never really lived. And so thank you for raising that, Holly. And yes, I mean, the thing I learned the most from her was empathy, connection, and realizing that we can influence the world through our engagement with one person at a time, and being a person of value.
Thank you, Simon. I really appreciate you mentioning that. And empathy really is key. We can energize ourselves right out of existence when we're not connected to others through empathy. I love that you've mentioned that. Thank you. I'm Holly. I'm done speaking.
Thanks, Holly. Right, guys, flash of your microphones if you have a question for Simon, who's with us, who's got his book coming out in a couple of weeks' time. The link to where you can pre-order the book is pinned to the top of the room, so you can go and check that out. Chao, you're flashing.
Hi, good morning. Hi, Simon. Thank you so much. It's been amazing. So my question was about creativity. So the conversation happening before you came on was about how do we find inspiration and motivation. And I think one of the things that's really lacking within children and adult as we grow into adults is creativity. So I wanted to really hear from you how, you use creativity, or how you inspire people to use creativity to kind of energize themselves and motivate, towards their goals and their desires. Thanks.
Great question about creativity, because for me, creativity is necessary if we are to uh, think different, to be innovative, and to have fun along the way. And what I do to keep my creative energy alive, and I think any of us can do this, whatever age you are, it's simply by diversifying the inputs that we have into our mind. Because the more exposure to diverse thinking that we have, the more creative we get. And so, just to give you an example, I love creativity. Whenever I would go to hear an incredible speaker present on stage, while many people would be writing notes furiously about the content shared, I'm writing down uh, the structure of how they do it. I'm trying to learn or understand the mechanics of how they do what they do, i.e., how did they start? How did they end? How many stories did they use? How long were the stories? When did they pause? When did they walk into the audience? And so that was feeding my creative energy to learn from these different people. And then when I spend time, for example, with a BBC film director who does work completely different to what I do, then that gives me the idea of working with my videographer to create a book trailer, just like you have a trailer when you go to the cinema of a film about to come out. And so that's an idea that I got from spending some time with a BBC film director. And I think it's, this is one way, but then it's also about, well, how can we change the physical environments we're in? There's a client of mine who spoke to me about how he didn't really have much motivation to plan his week ahead. Um, and I said to him, "Where do you do this?" And he said, "I do it on my kitchen table." And I said, "Is it the same place every week?" And I said, "Well, no wonder you don't feel much motivation. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's a sign to change up the physical setting you're in." And so I remember one week he sent me a photo on my WhatsApp of him having a cup of tea at the Ritz Hotel in London with a notepad and pen in front of him. And he said to me, "Simon, I haven't felt as inspired as I have today for a very long time, and I'm so looking forward to the week ahead now." And all it needed was a small change in physical setting to open his creative mind. And so I think for me, being creative is such an important part of any journey because that's what gives me energy. That's what I think gives us energy. Even when trying to get the endorsements that I've got for the book, I kept asking myself, rather than I can't get the endorsement, how could I get the endorsement? And so it focuses my mind on thinking different versus just giving up at the first hurdle. And this is the role of creativity. For me, it makes the whole process far more fun.
Thank you. I love that. I think we kind of block our creativity because we spend so much time comparing ourselves, and I think you just demonstrated that actually creativity is about looking, around us and getting that inspiration to helping us, with our motivations, our goals, and our desire to achieve more. Thank you, Simon.
Brilliant.
My pleasure. And just to sort of quickly
Simon.
wrap up on that, I mean, one of the things I often share is that if you only look at your competition, then you can only be as good as your competition. Whereas if you look outside of your field and you learn from businesses and leaders and thinkers from all walks of life, and you have the ability to bring those insights into your own industry, that's how innovation and creativity is born.
Brilliant. Who else here on stage would like to ask a question? Give us a flash of mics while we have Simon here. Just to let you know, you can pre-order his book, which is linked at the top of the room. But yeah, who is there? Who wants to ask a question? Give us a flash of mics working down the stage. Is there anyone there that wants to fire a question away? Give us a flash of mics, guys. I don't know if I'm missing anyone.
Flashing.
Yeah, perfect. Sorry, yeah. What happens is when I scroll up and down, I miss the flashes. Karen, good morning.
Good morning. And Marvin is flashing his fingers off as well. So good morning, winners. Good morning, Simon. I just wanted to ask you, how did you use your trauma to become a catalyst into moving forward? And I'm done speaking.
Great question, Karen. I'm going to be honest for a sec. When I lost my mum, it it was a very tough period of my life, because this was a moment in society where nobody really talked about mental health, and there weren't many resources put forward uh, for people going through these issues to face. I mean, if you look at the world now, mental health is mainstream. I mean, everybody's talking about mental health. There's initiatives, there's resources, there's even conferences around these topics. But back then, I just went further into my shell. I became more introverted. I didn't speak to many people because I couldn't. I didn't have the courage to do so, because I knew that as soon as I started sharing with people, they would be asking more questions, and I just wasn't ready to share what I'd gone through. And it took me a couple of years before I could start talking more comfortably about it. And I think, Karen, what helped is that when I started at university, I was the only student from my secondary school to go to that university. And so in a way, I was afforded a clean slate. And I I of course faced other challenges as the years went by. For example, the financial crisis, being out of a job. But I think what started to help me navigate the trauma and rebuild my sort of perspective in life was what I was feeding my mind. I began to dive headfirst into personal development books to really help me not only understand more about the emotional journey that I was going through, but also how I could begin to understand that there is a different perspective to what had happened. And not to take away the emotions and the trauma of what happened, but to simply realize that perhaps there is healthier ways to deal and respond to that.
Karen?
Thank you for that response. So I guess if you were to put it into a step, into a sort of step process, because it's not just the loss of a mother, but sometimes even just the loss of a relationship.
Mm.
If you were to put it in steps, um, and I'm just doing this because the way my brain works, I've already invested in
Mm.
reading and navigating some of the thought processes in terms of speaking positive things into my thought process, because before I thought I was not seen, I was not heard. Because growing up in Jamaica, one of the
Mm.
things is that you're to be seen and not heard. And we're never right, and our story has never been told. So if somebody say to my dad, um, she did this, my father would not ask me, did you do this? He would just hit you immediately. So for me, I always have this fear of being hit, this fear of being told to be silent. And it's only through the sake of Clubhouse and coming into these rooms that has actually started to pull me out of my shell, so to give me that voice now to speak. But I still have this fear inside, and almost as if I want to scream when I want to say something, but that sound gets shut up, and I find it difficult to scream. But during this pandemic, what I experienced as a nurse, and I'm sorry if anybody's triggered by this, is seeing patients die without anyone. And I think that just brought back a lot of the things that have been shut up inside. And I'm like, I never want to experience that again. And this week I was at work and a COVID patient came in, and I put the mask on, and all I was thinking behind the mask is, you can breathe. You can breathe. Breathe. Calm down. I started to panic
Mm.
because of this claustrophobic feeling. How how would your book help me to get over this feeling of suffocation? Because I feel like sometimes I'm about to suffocate because I have this fear that is shut up inside, and I don't know how to sort of get myself from that phase to the next phase. even though I've invested so much into books, I've listened to The Alchemist, and it's one of the most beautiful book I've heard. And man's search for meaning, and these books just really make me know that where you're at is minute, but yet still my own experience is validated. And I just don't know how to get to the next phase, this fear phase. And I think yesterday when Paul was talking about scaling up, I realized it sort of came as a little turn on alarm for me. Oh, actually, I'm holding on to hurt that I've not actually dealt with yet. And I hear the words coaching, but how do I trust and move past that fear, Simon? And I'm going to definitely get your book. It's in my Amazon basket ready to be purchased. But how do I get past this shut up feeling, this claustrophobic feeling? And it happens even when I'm putting on clothes that feels too tight. So sorry if anybody's triggered. I'm so sorry, but I want to finish here and open up the mic for Marvin, who has been flashing. So thank you so much. Maybe this is a topic for another room, but thank you.
Brilliant.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for the question and your courage to share so openly and transparently about your experiences. I guess in terms of the steps, and again, it's about understanding more about where you are and what you're going through. But I think a couple of things that can help, Karen, is first to, if you haven't already, to just start writing down your thoughts on a more regular basis about what you're going through and what's going through in your mind, because writing, the act of writing, can be the cheapest form of therapy there is out there. This process allows you to get to know you at a deeper level. The second is there are always two voices inside of us. I mean, you talked about this when you get triggered some of these scenarios. And there is the voice of the critic and there is the voice of the guide. And it's a process of understanding how we can silence that critic more so we can give oxygen to the guide. And we all have it, whether we call it our gut, our intuition, energy, life force, whatever we want to call it. We're referring to the same thing. And there is so much wisdom. There is so much wisdom in that innate guide. But we've got to start listening to it more. And the third thing is about fear. If I'm honest, Karen, I don't think we ever fully overcome fear. I mean, we can experience less of a fear, but I think there will always be some fear within us. And this is where courage comes in, because courage is not the absence of fear, but courage is the belief that, Karen, you will be okay despite your fears. Because as a mentor once said to me, nothing beats fear like practice. And so, what you shared earlier, that you are on Clubhouse here, that you are finding places where you can share more of your story, of your voice, I think that will help heighten your confidence and give you the belief that there are supportive people around here, and there are people that want to hear my story and hopefully learn from what I've gone through, so they don't go through what you've gone through, but also they learn from how you have overcome obstacles and challenges in your own journey.
Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you, the Winners Club, for this amazing room.
Thank you, Karen. We're going to take two more. We've got two more people lined up for you, Simon, and then you can share where people can, how people can get a hold of the book and where people can find it. Marvin, going to come to you, and then we're going to go to Croz, because I know both of you guys were flashing. Marvin, good morning.
Cheers, Paul. Thanks for another brilliant conversation. Simon, great to see you in the room. Always love your content, and it's been amazing to watch your journey as well. I don't know. It's weird that Karen shared that just before I shared, because I think she kind of lent into a question I really wanted to ask, and I want to take the opportunity to thank her for sharing, because it's not easy to come to the stage and share in that way and be so transparent and open. So, just if I was to reframe the question a little bit based on what you shared, it would really be to say, and I think you touched on this, and I don't want what you said, Simon, to kind of get lost in amongst everything else, because I think you said, you can't have self-development without self-awareness. And we are all individually at different points in our lives in terms of our mindset, in terms of our achievements. So, sometimes it's very difficult to just apply the same process or formula that someone else is using to what you're going through at any one time. So really my question to you was around coping with the continuous negativity that can sometimes come along. And I know that's different depending on cultures as well sometimes. As Karen mentioned, dealing with deaths and things like that is different in some cultures than it is in others. But you've touched on some brilliant things, about changing your environment as one way to overcome and change your energy. But when these waves of negative energy are coming along, and when everyone knows that you go through certain things in your life where you can struggle at times, but that continuous disappointment, how would you sort of get around that, or I suppose protect yourself against that? What are your thoughts around that? I'd love for you to share around that. Hopefully that was a clear question. I had to reframe it a little bit. Over to you, Simon.
Yeah, Marvin, thank you so much for the question and your words earlier. Just a quick note on what you mentioned about Karen. I think the act of being vulnerable, both from Karen's perspective and what I shared earlier about my mom and what I've done in the book I've written, is vulnerability is so important in today's world, because simply put, the gateway drug to connection is vulnerability. When we become more vulnerable, we're able to connect to people at a deeper level. Uh, and so when I look at people in leadership positions, I often say that being vulnerable doesn't make you any less of a leader. It simply makes you human. And as a result, it makes you more relatable. Uh, and to your question, Marvin, it's a great one, because we are all going to experience negativity in our journey, whether that is within our personal life or our professional life. And for me, it's simply, first of all, to understand the impact that that thinking, that event or experience can have on our mind, but also to pause and have the consciousness to step back, so we don't get caught up in the emotion of that negativity in the moment. So, because what will happen otherwise is you react, and it might not be the response you actually wanted to have, because you just got so caught up in the negativity. And I think when we pause and step back, we are able to choose a better response. We become more aware of the best response in that moment. And I think it was Karen that talked about the book, Viktor Frankl's book. And he spoke about the fact that in our response lies our greatest power, because we are going to have setbacks, we're going to have challenges. You're going to have days in which you don't feel you can continue. But in your response to those events, that is where your greatest power lies. And so when we become more conscious of our response and have that ability to master our emotions, when things don't always go away, when things we see are very negative and can put a dampener on our energy, I think that is how we begin to master how we show up.
I appreciate that, Simon, and definitely a great share. I think so often we're so busy pushing forward and ploughing on and just dealing with the hurdles as they come. We don't really look back to see how well we handled some of the challenges that we went through. So yeah, I love that, and thanks for the opportunity to share. Back to you, Paul.
Brilliant, thanks, Marvin. Right, one more. Croz, coming to you. No pressure. Last question.
Well, it's more of just an observation, really. I know, Simon, we've engaged in conversation on occasions, and I think we go down exactly the same the route. I was just going to comment. Been a lovely session this morning, but just an overview. Everyone appears, or the questions and what have you, this searching, and as everyone knows, the start of it all is relaxed. There's no hurry. We're all trying to drive this machine to get these results, but the universe is a wonderful thing that if you allow it to deliver, it will deliver and it will never fail. But the trouble is that we keep trying to do that job ourselves and rushing and chasing. And I just wanted to ask for Simon's comment on the power of just relaxing and allowing things to happen.
Well, Croz, great to connect with you here again on Clubhouse, and looking forward to our next conversation again. But yes, a very good point that you make there about relaxing, and it ties very much into something that I share a lot with my clients and audiences, which is that slowing down is a superpower. Slowing down is a superpower, especially in a world that is increasingly distracted and bombarded with notifications. And as you said, Cross, we feel like we always have to be in doing mode. We always feel like we've got to be pushing or forcing something through. But when we relax a little more, when we slow down, when we run at our own pace, then that's when we increase the probability of getting into energetic flow. And there's a Zen saying I read when I was in Kyoto back in 2017 said, "Be attached to no outcome and open to everything." Be attached to no outcome and open to everything.
Brilliant. Thanks, Cross. Thanks, Simon. Simon, where can we find more information about you? The link to the book is obviously at the top. There's an audio book, I believe, isn't there, as well as the actual printed book?
Yep, there will be an audio book. So I recorded that not too long ago now, 3 days in the Penguin Studios. So if you prefer the audiobook option, me speaking to you for nearly 10 hours in your ear, then make sure to get that one.
Brilliant. So, yeah, guys, go and click on the link at the top to support Simon and be able to pre-order a copy of the book, and audio and imprinted. Simon, thank you for your time this morning. There's been some really good comments in the back channel as well, which I'm sure you could see because you're in the Clubhouse room as well. I know that. So, yeah, thank you very much again. And where can we find you on social media? What's your preferred route for people to connect to you?
Sure, I'm on all the major platforms, but the two I'm most active on is LinkedIn and Instagram. So on LinkedIn, search Simon Alexander Ong and you'll find me. And on Instagram, my handle is @SimonAlexanderO.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Simon. Best of luck with the book. I hope that we've the Winners Club community has supported you and shifted some copies of the pre-order book today. So yeah, best of luck.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time today, Simon.
Thank you so much, guys.
Cheers. Thank you. We're going to do a quick reset, guys, and we'll be back after this to continue the conversation around motivation and desire and follow up from what Simon shared with us this morning. We'll be back after this.
You are listening to Breakfast with Winners. Exclusive content direct from the Winners Club. If you are enjoying the conversation, click on the green Monopoly house at the top of the screen right now and join the thousands of winners already in our community. For even more actionable content and powerful lessons, download the free companion app now. Just search for the Winners Club in the App Store or Google Play. For more information about the Winners Club and how to become part of our growing community, head to thewinnersclub.club. Now, back to the show.
So welcome back, everybody. This is Breakfast with Winners, and this morning we've been talking all about motivation and desire. We started the room at 6:30, 6:30 a.m. GMT, or BST, British summertime now, isn't it? Is it? It is, isn't it? Yeah. It always confuses me when you're trying to speak to guests. Like last week with Gary Henderson, trying to bring Gary on. It was like, is it 3 a.m. or is it 4 a.m. where you are? In the end, you just have to ask them, what time is it where you are now? Just then try and work backwards with the...
I don't get how... I speak to, when I'm sorting out some guests from the US, like, how they say like 3 a.m. is like, yeah, that's fine. And I'm like...
Well, at some points it's 4 a.m. At some points they can't get their head around it either. It's like, well, it should be this time. No, it's not. And anyway, it's confusing. So we started the room at 6:30 a.m. this morning, and we set ourselves a bit of a task of coming up with 10 almost instructional bullet points that somebody could look at and say, right, okay, if they were lacking a little bit of motivation, 10 things they should do. And we probably digressed a little bit off of that. And probably actually it's not that possible to come up with bullet points, but we've had some good conversation. We've gone on tangents around parenting.
Did you get any?
I've got, well, sort of, yeah, I got one, change your circle and surroundings, which was an undercurrent of what most people were saying. Find people that you can relate to was number 2. Find a compelling future. That was 1. Find inspiration. Have some belief that it's possible. You know, them sorts of points.
It's very generic. It's just like,
I guess it's a difficult subject and we can't really get the 10 bullet points. But we have had great conversation around parenting, different parenting styles, the education system, the way young adults are raised. We've had a little bit of touching on conversation around the sort of Snowflake Generation, as people are tagging people and being called that, which, you know, whether that's right or wrong. That's technically your generation, you know that?
Yeah, probably. But I sort of left school and I've always been around a lot older people. So it's, but I do see the softness, and I don't want to insult anyone, but it is like
softness. Yeah, you're right. So we're continuing that conversation. What do you do to get yourself motivated and find some element of desire? If you could bottle up what you do, what is it? If you can articulate that well enough, then feel free to flash your microphones and tell us and share with us so we can continue the conversation this morning. Let me see who is flashing. We've got a big stage now. We've got lots of people here on stage. So there we go. I'm going to go to we're going to go to Mari, because Mari's flashing, and then I'll keep an eye out for other people, or you can send us a message in the back channel as well if you have something to share, and we can pick up on it that way, because it's quite a big stage at the moment. Mari, coming to you.
Yeah, this is a great question. When you lack motivation and you need to get moving, what do you do? I had an experience with somebody on Clubhouse today. I think they were in the room earlier, but I don't know if they're in the room now. And so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but they were actually suicidal. And I'll just say this. I was just communicating with them by chat. And the main thing of it was that I think supported them was it was bespoke. It was whatever I was saying it was for them personally. It wasn't particularly generic. It was akin to their particular situation. And I think that's important as well, because nobody wants to really feel like they're just another number. Everybody is special and everyone wants to feel special. So whatever that thing is, that motivation, it really needs to be geared up to our situation or your situation, what you're particularly going through. For me, faith in God really helps me, and it's helped me for many years. And so that is important. But something that our guest speaker said, which I thought was just brilliant, I just know it just sort of almost slipped under the radar when Karen had that beautiful share, was journaling, writing it down. And when I have gone through periods in my life where I was just rock bottom, after the death of my father, I remember I suffered depression. I'm not a depressive person. And it was journaling that really got me out of it. That was a real catalyst to help me get motivated just by getting all the negative out, getting it all out. So I emptied myself of all of that so that something else could come in. And so, yeah, I'll pause there.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mari. I'd love to see, actually, you mentioned faith there, didn't you? And I'd love to just flash your mics how much faith and, God and religion plays in people's motivation. I'd love to see a flash of mic from people if that is the case, just scrolling up and down. Yeah, okay. A fair amount. Lighting up like a Christmas tree there. You see that? Surprising. Right, it's good to see some of the conversations going on in the chat as well. That's really good. I think once our conversation, have you ever kept note, Ashley, on the highest amount of posts in the chat?
Yesterday, oh well, no, it's
about there now. Yeah, it's about there now. 160 is a number that I recognise as being the highest.
I see. Yesterday there was a lot, and it seems like it's getting...
So the chat is busy. It's good to see all the conversations going on. It's good for, there's people mentioning in the chat here. It's good to see the support for everybody in the community. This is a great community for people to support each other. We might not always agree. There might be differences of opinions. There might be people that rant every now and then, but generally it's a very good, strong, supportive community. So if you're going through challenging times, this is the place for you. So definitely stick around, listen to all of the content over the course of the week, and it's definitely good to have you. And we're trying our best to try and find new members to expose to the... Is that right? Should I say that? New members to expose to the Winners Club, or new members to join. Come along and listen to the Winners Club. Right, Croz, I think you was flashing. Going to come back to you, my friend, because I know you was flashing after Mari. Good morning.
No, what? I was... I had another panel up here, and I was just going to say cheerio to Simon and just continue. But I listen, as you know, I've been around the game a long time, and it's interesting. But number one, guys, there's nothing new. Trust me, there is nothing new. It's all a rehash of set rules and principles that are thousands of years old. So basically, don't complicate it. Bob Proctor, bless him, said to me many years ago, because I've spent my life trying to denude it, make it simple, because everyone tries to complicate it, of calling it all different names and different bits and pieces. He said, you're making it too simple. He said, you can't sell simple. And that's basically the problem. People are making this too complicated. Basically, know where you're going with absolute clarity, and it doesn't matter how much you push yourself. The only limitation is you. You've learned to limit your expectations. When you were a child, you had the perfect creative brain, but you got trained to be, and you were told that that was not possible. When you went into your world of make-believe, it wasn't possible. And at school, in my day, you used to get a clip round the ear. Oh, I don't think they can do that anymore. But you've got a clip round the ear. Oh, stop daydreaming. Daydreaming is the greatest asset you've got to creating your goal. We've learned to not be successful. We've learned, we've been trained, we're a product of the education system to make us fit in. The only way that you can really free yourself is to unlearn, go back to that childhood innocence, and allow your brain to just allow you to think of your goal with no limitations. Then come to now. Make now where you want to be. Most people are living in a constant place of, when I get there, it'll be all right. When this happens, it'll be all right. No, make now where you want to be. Make the place where you live where you want to be. Make the job what you want to be. And if you've got anything you can do that you can change it, do it. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Change it now. And then get rid of all the rubbish in the past. So many people are dragging things around saying, how are things going, mate? Oh, well, all right. But, that divorce settlement buggered me up. Yeah, how long ago was that? Oh, about 10 years ago. Be real. Get rid of it. Forget it. It's not serving you. The only things you want from the past are your memories and the things that you learned that you know are right. Everything else, dump it. And if you did those 3 things and just freed yourself up, it's not a bloody race. Every client I get, I say, listen, I guarantee if you listen to me, you'll do less and you'll earn more. We've all been trained to fill this day 8 hours, 9 to 5. Who worked that out? All they invented was traffic jams and rush hour, right? Just do the work when you need to do the work. I know if you've got a job, you've got to do it, but turn up, be present. It's simple, guys. We make it complicated. Know where you're going with absolute clarity and don't limit that vision. Make where you are where you want to be so you're not constantly trying to escape, and get rid of the shit in the background, and I guarantee your life will change. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Cros. We can always count on you for the daily kick up the arse. So brilliant. Thank you. Someone's taking the mickey out of me in the chat, saying that there's a KPI on the chat, on the number of chat. Everything's a KPI. But no, the KPI is at 180 now. Active, very active. Very active.
What we need to do is also get their shares up next to it. So see where there's 43.
Yeah.
We need to get them up as well. So we need to.
If we hit 100 shares, you win a prize.
Yeah. you win a day with Paul locked in a room.
I wouldn't want to put anybody through that. Right, flash of mics, guys, if you want to come in on the conversation. We're talking motivation, desire. How do you cultivate it?
Michelle.
What do you do?
Michelle's flashing again.
Who?
Michelle.
No, who?
Michelle.
No,
I'm always nervous. I get nervous now. I'm like, where's Michelle going to go?
What we need a button. You know, we need like a dub button that dubs out the noise. No, don't say that. No, don't go there. Don't say that. No. We'll go press the button. Only joking, Michelle. We'll come to you because I know you was flashing, and then we'll carry on down. I can see that Becca's flashing. I can see Elliot. So we will come to you guys. We've got some time left. Nichelle. Sorry, somebody called me. Nichelle, coming to you.
Oh, thanks, Paul. So I just love Uncle Cros. Like, he's so right. Everything is now. Like, all that matters is now. I don't live in tomorrow. Like, I can't put any energy in tomorrow because I've got to focus on doing what I do today to the best of my ability. And then what the knock-on effect of that is, you know, tomorrow will be now. So you're always living in the moment, right? And then also just kind of trying to block out the noise. I know I rant about the government and the media. That's because I used to work in the media for 17 years and I know the BS that goes on behind and all the stuff that wheeling and dealing that goes on. So I block out the noise. I don't watch the news. I don't read the newspapers. I live in my bubble to keep my energy and my kids and me safe so that I have got full pelt power to get on with what I'm doing. And I've got the headspace and the energy to do that. And then obviously surrounding yourself with amazing people. But the last couple of things are, you know, the biggest lessons for me are when you face a challenge, never, ever, ever put it off. Give yourself time to mind map it out. Go out for your meditative walks, walk it off, you know, go to the gym, think about it and give yourself that headspace whilst doing something physical, because that physiology change really helps with the clarity of mind. And then come back and mind map it. And then you'll find that you've got a fair few solutions. I mean, I've got something on the table at the moment, which is a pain in the arse. And I brainstormed it with Cros yesterday and it was like, okay, yeah, amazing. And, you know, so also reach out to people that, you know, support you. We've got a fantastic community here. And yeah, so always never put off your challenges because they just make you stronger and they also make you bulletproof for the next time that you face something because you know you've done it, right? So yeah, that was my quick share. Rant over.
Fantastic. And it's friendly banter. It's friendly banter. There we go. Yeah. You know,
we love Nichelle.
Yeah, as the banter gets more, you know you're more loved. That's what I would say.
Yeah, no,
it's probably a way to gauge the love level. From the more.
Yeah, that's how we get. That's how we show love here.
That's our love language, yeah, banter. Right, anyway, talking of banter, Elliot, going to Elliot. Elliot, over to you, my friend. Good morning.
It's a bit of banter this morning. I love it. Yeah, I mean, going down on what Michelle said. Yeah, mind mapping. So if people don't really understand or get that, it's starting that central point first. That central, target, that central goal. And if you that's where you start. So you start with your mind mapping in the center, put down the goal. So it's either a word or a phrase, or an image is even better. And then map out from there. So you basically draw out your lines, and you keep it organic. So you sort of curved lines going out, and then with all of the little bits and pieces that you need to do to actually achieve that goal. So that helps to give you clarity. It doesn't just help to give you clarity, but what it does is it actually gives you a way of being able to naturally think, and that not just gives you clarity, but it gives you a way of understanding what needs to be done. It gives you a better understanding about things. It gives you more confidence. You're able to communicate things better. And just that alone is proven to help your memory by 70%. And it's also gives you the ability to be able to come up with new ideas and visually think. And visual thinking is a game changer for many creative and visionary entrepreneurs. So I loved what Michelle was saying there, and mind mapping is an absolute game changer. I came up with a couple of things yesterday that I was absolutely stuck with, and started mapping it out. And within 5 minutes, we'd nailed a couple of challenges that needed to be done, and saw where your weaknesses were, where there was less information, and what you needed to learn or understand. So yeah, absolutely love what Michelle said. Is there mind mapping needs to be used by many more people. So yeah, love that. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Elliot. Brilliant. Cheers, mate. Becca, going to come to you. I know you was flashing. I can't see where you've gone now. Are you there?
Good morning. I'm a bit lower down, Paul.
Oh, you was next to Elliot, and now you've moved.
I didn't do anything. I don't know why it's moved. Sorry about that.
What did I do?
What did you do, Elliot? You're always causing trouble. So I'm thinking, you always do such thought-provoking flipping questions, Paul, and you hurt my brain on a Friday morning, to be honest with you. But anyway, as a young person, I was an elite gymnast. I was quite a competitive sports person, and I'm trying to think like what motivated me. And I think when I was younger, it was external things. So if people told me I couldn't do something, I was going to go and do it. And if someone beat my score, I was going to go out and kind of beat their score. And I think that definitely drove me, and probably to a little bit of an extent that still happens now as an adult. I wouldn't say I'm a grown up, but only adult by age. But now I think it's more beating my own personal best, my own goals. That really motivates me. So how can I be a better person? How can I sell more products? How can I market better? I think that's the driver for me. That's what I've come up with anyway. Since 6:30, it's taken me over 2 hours to work out what motivates me. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Becky. But it is a really difficult question to ask yourself, isn't it? Because if you if you said, I'm looking at you now, Ashley, because you're sitting in front of me. But and this is to Becky as well. If you said like what drives you or what motivates you, I don't actually have to. But I don't actually wake up and think I must feel motivated today or I must have desire. It's like it's inside of you.
It's there. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah,
it's just a lifestyle.
Yeah, so to try and put a label on it and say what is that and how do you find that is difficult. Can I ask you a question, Becca? Because I know you said you was quite a high level gymnast. I don't know where I heard it, here or maybe in somewhere else I was listening to. I might have even read it. I don't know. The percentage of athletes that have come, well, this is the same for entrepreneurs as well, and generally people of high performance that have come from a traumatic background or had an element of trauma. But it's particularly, there was a study of people that had won gold medals in the Olympics, and the percentage was staggering of people that had come from a traumatic background to then go on and achieve a really, really like uber successful level, like a gold medal in, you know, athlete or an Olympics or something like that. So did you, while she was competing for gymnastics, was some sort of trauma driving you, if you don't mind me asking?
No, of course. Actually, this is a big part of my story. So, yes, I was sexually assaulted by my coach, and that drove me to do better, be a better person. Actually, you know, try and overcome. To an extent, I think you always live with that, but to kind of overcome that abuse. And that situation, not him, that situation has driven me in business hugely. It happened towards the end of my career as an athlete, which as a gymnast, which was age 14, which, you know, that's quite old for a gymnast. In that kind of world, I think it's changed a lot now. But I think you're right. And I think trauma drives a lot of people. I think trauma drives a lot of entrepreneurs. I don't know whether I like the word trauma. I just like to call it an experience, because in a very unusual way, I'm almost grateful. I think it happened to me for a reason. And now I work with young people, support young people. And I don't know that I'd have it any other way. So I hope that answers your question, Paul.
It does, and I'm incredibly sorry for putting you on the spot there, but thank you for sharing that, and thank you very much for opening up and sharing that. And so I didn't want to put you on the spot, but thank you.
Please don't apologise. It's where I get my strength and motivation from. I truly believe that now as an adult. So to anyone that has ever experienced anything similar, you can really change your life. You can change your life around. You can change the course. You can inspire other people, motivate other people with your story. So appreciate you asking that, Paul. Thank you.
Good for you. Thank you so much for being here and being part of the community. Beige you before your finger falls off.
I was going to say snipers ready.
Yeah,
he's got the trigger finger ready.
Trigger finger ready. And I just got back from a gym. Really great conversation this morning. This one about the school stuff and Simon, and what Becky said there as well. It's like we all have stuff happen to us at different levels, and some are really, you know, unbearable for some people. But it's like what Becky says, how you respond to it. Going back to Viktor Frankl's book is, you know, the man's what's the thinking of life, or something, meaning of life.
Man's search for meaning, isn't it?
Man's search for meaning, right? You know, he was a prison physically in that cell, but not in his mind, and he chose to. And it takes a certain kind of awareness and self-awareness and development to get to that point. And that's why these rooms are great, because every single day, I think Joe did say it the other day, is if you come in this room with no expectation, somebody's going to say something that's going to help you shift, but you've got to take that on. But in terms of creating motivation and desire, and I get you, Paul, you're probably waking up and you're just doing what you're doing. You know, you've got meetings to attend, you've got emails to send out, you've got investments to make. So you're thinking, I don't need the motivation, just get on with the day, because you have these. The thing is, you have these big visions and goals, and we all do. When you know what you're aiming for in 1, 2, 5, 6 years' time, what you do today is, what do I need to do today in order to that realization to happen? So you just get on with it. But certain people, when you say, how do you give someone motivation? Motivation comes from outside. And, you know, we can all get motivated in the short term, motivated to go to the gym, to eat healthy, to make some immediate money. But when the immediate reward starts to wane, the motivation goes. That's why we need this internal desire and inspiration. That's then a different conversation, because then people thinking, well, yeah, but in my experience, nobody gave me any validity. I was worthless. I was this and that. So their internal dialogue is, well, if it comes from within, well, my conditioning is that I'm nothing. I'm no one. I'm worthless. So that's a different conversation. So when you're dealing with this young offender and you're thinking, well, hang on, get a driving license, do it. He can't connect those actions with the bigger, better life he can have in a few years' time. There's a disconnect there. So he's thinking, I could still knock on doors, I'd get rejected. And that's why when he says to you, well, that's going to affect my mental health, because he can't handle the mini rejections. Whereas you, me, other people on this stage, we've learned, let's get 10 failures. It's all right. We'll deal with it. But one knockback for someone in that state is the equivalent of us getting 1,000 knockbacks. And that's the issue. So we've got to have a desire from within. And that's a different conversation. So what you're doing with him is great. But there's a bigger conversation because, like you say, there's three things: the right environment, the constant dialogue, and the arm around his shoulder all the time. So that, in terms of that dialogue. The other thing about productivity and how do we keep going, and I think Cros referred to this, is only the moment we have. And I have this concept about being busy, that I'm never busy. And when someone says they're busy, I'm thinking, what does that actually look like and mean? If I ask everybody on this stage now, you're probably looking in at 9 o'clock, the room will end and you'll have a load of things to do today. You'll have a to-do list. Somebody will be like, I'm packed throughout the day. I've got meetings and I've got this and that. The reason we come up with the word busy is like we collapse all those activities in the day, and then we create an overwhelm or an overthink. And then we get to the end of the day, how many times you've been really active in the day, in busy, but at the end you think, I've not really achieved much. You can't quantify it. So my invitation to everybody, stop being busy and just the task you're doing, just do that task. Have that meeting, send that email, write that report, respond to that message. Just do those things and don't collapse all your 10 activities in the day in one lump and think, oh my God, I'm busy. Separate each activity and focus on each one. And I promise you at the end, two things will happen. Number one, you will know what you've achieved. You'll feel good about it and you won't feel guilty for the things you may not have done. So remove the word busy, start saying, I'm going to be productive and effective, and see your life change. Hope that helps, Paul. Great room again today.
Thank you, my friend. Yes, it will help many people. You know what? You said something there. Sometimes a change in perspective or something that happens. I've had it recently. So this energy bill crisis that I've told you this, Ashley, haven't I? This energy bill crisis that we're all getting at the moment is compounded in terms of my day-to-day income comes from the biggest percentage of it comes from one of my particular businesses, which is the workspace company. And we've had, not only did we have, I think I've said about £20,000 electric bill increase, but not only did we have that, we then got coupled with an £18,000 gas increase in terms of fixed costs. So that's predicted for the next 12 months. So that, best part of £50,000 of increases, plus then a knock-on effect of national insurance going up, so service charge elements going up, cleaning, security teams, stuff like that, all increasing. But what I can't do is wash that through in terms of increases for members that are here in terms of their tenancies, because some of them are on fixed contracts for 12 months or period of time, so we can't fuss through the increase. So in the short term, we've got the best part of a £50,000 deficit in profit, which was what was we expecting. So we're already pretty lean in terms of fixed costs. So the only fixed cost that can be adjusted or changed is the amount of money that I take from the business on a monthly basis. That's the only one fixed cost that can be changed. So that little shift and tilt in balance has caused me to be incredibly focused in a certain area to then try and recuperate that or rebalance that so that income comes from somewhere else and not from there. And if I hadn't have, I've had stuff that has been on the back burner for a couple of years that just within the last 10 days, I've been incredibly motivated to drive forward. And that has only come because of a change in circumstances that needs to drive that. And that probably wouldn't have happened. It would have just been left on a back burner. I probably would have been talking about it for the next 6 years. So yeah, sometimes a shift, a big shift in your environment.
Sometimes this is why I always think like setbacks, like for some unknown reason, like if I ever have a setback.
Well, Tim Story says setback is a comeback.
Whenever I have a setback or something doesn't work in my favour, I just sit there and think something's coming. I wonder what it is. Like it's going to be bigger, it's going to be better, and it's coming, and it always does. And it's like. But and then sometimes I'm sitting there and it's like 3 months into this setback and I think, hurry up.
Hurry up and come.
Hurry up and come. Hurry up and come. And then the thing is something good will come along and I'm like, that was it. It's like when I do something, like if I'm having a bit of banter with like some of my team or something and I say something a bit out of thingy and I walk along and trip over, I think, at least that instant karma hit me straight away. like I just have this like law that I don't know, I just think like, something will come. Like, so when a setback comes, I'm like, what is it this time? It's like a lucky dip.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, as I said, tonight I was 3 months in. I'm like, it hasn't come yet.
Still knocking. Yeah.
I'm
still waiting.
But it's the catalyst. It makes you act.
Yeah, we've got to become. Goes back to you've got to become uncomfortable to take that next step, haven't you?
Yeah,
if you sit because me in my instance, I'd sat in this comfort zone I could sit in this comfort zone for years, and just tick along. I'd reached a point where I just tick along, no problems, and it's taken a big shift in circumstances to say, right, okay, I need to get my ass kicked back into gear a little bit now. And refocus on something that I should have done, like I said, 2 years ago, which I didn't do. Anyway, right, we're talking motivation, desire, and all that type of stuff this morning. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Winners Club. Welcome to Breakfast with Winners, a daily room that we run every single morning, 6:30 a.m. till 9 a.m. Monday to Friday. We're on show like 380 or something. I think we should keep.
I just read the comment.
I did put a calendar mark for the 400th show, so we'll make a big deal of that. It's in the calendar at some point.
I was just reading the back channel. Julie was like, I wonder if Chris Rock thought that when he got slapped, and I was just talking about karma. Instant karma. Like,
the chat's over 200 now, isn't it? Which is brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
The strongest it's ever been, most engaged it's ever been. So thank you for being part of this wonderful community and showing up every morning and being vulnerable and sharing all of the stuff that you share. We get loads of messages from people almost shedding the light on us, saying that we're changing so many people's lives, but it's the collective group of the community that does that to people. So thank you for showing up and doing that, all of you. Right, who's next? Flash of your microphones if you want to share around motivation and desire. Let me see who's there. Marvin, I can see you flashing, and then I can see Michael as well. Down towards the bottom of the stage, Michael. So we'll go for Marvin and then Michael.
I'll keep it super brief because so you can get to Michael. But I think what you touched on with I think you were talking about working with someone who kind of made a bad decision or made bad choices. I think for me, where I come from, and if you look at my past, especially in school. I've made a number of bad decisions, but I feel like the difference in someone understanding that they need to kind of make a change, or understanding that they can make a change, is really sort of around mindset. And that sounds easy to say, but I think if I think of when I was at school, so many contributing factors were around me that I didn't truly understand. Everything from the area that I was growing up in, which was a rough area. So I was, you could easily say, yeah, you're a byproduct of the area. But also added to that, I had sort of teachers that didn't like me for similar reasons, because I would always mess about. But I think at some point there's a tipping point. Everyone's heard of the saying, success leaves clues. I think Jim Rohn said it, and then Tony Robbins kind of remixed it. But I think there's also clues in the journey that we have, which Simon touched on earlier. And if I remember sort of calling in. I didn't actually go in to get my GCSE results at school. I called in because I was staying at my dad's at the time, so I was nowhere near the school. And I remember a teacher who absolutely hated me answering the phone, and she sounded so disappointed to actually hear that my results were good. That's something that burned into my mind, and actually I remember to this day. Do you know what I mean? Sort of like years and years later. And it's small little things like that sometimes are the spark that turn you around and make you think, you know what, if I don't pull my socks up then and really give it a good go, then nobody else is going to want to do it for me. Do you know what I mean? Because there's so many, as we touched on earlier, there's so many things that are always going to happen negatively. At what point are you going to change your own mindset to see things differently, so that you can actually start to have a positive outcome? And I think it's just really understanding those, or identifying those tipping points. And I think, I don't know who you're working with, Paul, but it's changing the mindset so you can identify those tipping points and understand that, you know, you can actually change the outcome yourself, and you do have more control than you realize. I just wanted to share that because I know you touched on it earlier and mentioned it in the chat as well.
Yeah, thanks, Marvin. So I've had the opportunity to work with a group of young offenders over the past couple of months in like a bit of a mentoring type capacity, and yeah, a lot. Where this room started is before we always arrive here in the studio. Well, it used to be 6 o'clock, but I'm getting a bit later now. I just can't get up. I struggle, honestly. That alarm goes off at 5:10, and I snooze until it's getting worse. As I'm getting older, it's getting worse. And I'm not really that old, but
I snoozed for 3 minutes.
Every couple of weeks, the snooze gets longer and longer and longer on the studio mornings. But we should get here. We used to get here at 6, but we get here at about 10, 6:15, and we have a chat for 10 minutes before we start. Or Ashley tries to chat while I'm busy trying to set up the YouTube, the streaming service, and all of the stuff that has to get done before.
And if I can't get the seat at the buttons table, I serve the coffee.
But in that point in time, we basically discussed we was discussing that group, and one of the biggest things I've noticed is that there's just from all of them, and you know, probably talking group of about 20, 25 that have regularly got to meet, and from all of them there's just a complete lack of desire and motivation, and like they're just stuck, suspended in their little worlds with no desire to get out of it. Like they'll talk about wanting more or talk about how bad the circumstances are for them, but they've got no motivation or desire to take any action to get out of it. So that's how the room started, basically. So yeah, loads of funny comments going on. It's good to see the chat so lively as well. So yeah, that's that. Michael, I said I'll come to you. We will come to you. No pressure to you. This will be the last question / share / whatever it is you've got to say. So no pressure, my friend. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, and glad you bring me up. I'm from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I'm a professor. Our mind always push our body to work. Okay, if we have a desire of doing something, okay, our mind has to discipline our body. Action has to go. We have once we have set a goal. Once we set a goal, that means we have to discipline our mind and to connect our body, to teach our body. We have to action. Let go. We have to get it done, and that is the most powerful desire. Whenever you want to do something, things like that. We have a lot of things to do. We want to get rich. Okay, we want to be promoted. We want to invent something. We want to get something, get it done, or we want to get next year what we want to do under our resolution, blah 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 blah. But at the end of the day, they do 95% of them doesn't get it done. The reason is because the mind doesn't discipline the body. The mind is the power that you control your body, and then you have to be very disciplined with yourself, and that you make sure that you get it done. Focus on that particular area, and then you will get it done. A lot of things is not impossible. Everything is possible. It's only that whether you want to do it or you doesn't want to do it. Whether you are hardworking or whether you are lazy, I don't know, because I am the one who always tell people, people are just very funny, and people sometimes get lazy, and once they have the opportunity to relax, they forget everything. Oh no, that's not good. So I am doing something which I always discipline myself. Like I am doing, okay, now I'm changing the lightning into energy. We have the kind of lightning, thunder lightning. In Malaysia, we have a lot of huge potential of lightning, thunder lightning. There are rainforests, okay? Every now and then, every 2 or 3 days we have rain, okay? But prior to rain, there is a lot of thunder. So the thunder will strike everywhere. They strike the tree, They will strike. They will strike your house. On top of your house there is a cable, and they pull it down. There is an area, and they pull the earth into the earth, the copper wire, a copper plate, and go to the earth. Okay. Then I use that the formula. I want to get it done, so I get it done. I turn the lightning into domestic energy. Guys, thank you very much. I'm from Malaysia. I'm living in Kuala Lumpur. It's a difference of 7 hours. The difference between England and Malaysia.
So it's dinner for winners with you now.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Michael. Love that. I had a big smile on my face on everything you were saying, and so are people in the chat as well. We can see some good, lovely hearing that you can hear Michael's smile is saying.
Yeah, because I'm graduated from Harvard University in the 80s. I'm already in my senior age. I'm semi-retired. Okay.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here, Michael. Where else in the world, actually, could you get, because I'm just thinking about what Clubhouse has given us the ability to do, but where can you get such a diverse group of people to discuss a random topic that we came up with really at about 6:10? Let's be honest. Yeah. There's no genius really involved. We Ashley sat down and went, I've got no plan for this morning. What shall we talk about? Which is standard in Ashley's world, right? So it's like, I've got zero plan. Can you help me? What shall we talk about? But where else could you get a diverse group of people in an environment like this from all over the world to discuss something and share their views? Phenomenal. I don't think you can you?
No.
Really? Not two-way like this, two-way conversation. Brilliant. Thank you guys for being part of such a great community. Like I say, we're here every single morning. Sorry, I've just had a message come. We're gonna have to end. I'm going. This is
have a lovely weekend. We've got
we're here at 6:30 a.m. every single morning UK time.
Coming up next week.
Breakfast for winners in some places, dinner with winners somewhere else. Could be lunch with other people. Just don't know, do we?
Afternoon.
Yeah.
Middle of the night.
Wherever you are around the world, thank you for being part of the Winners Club. Thank you for listening. We'll be back Monday. What we got next week?
We've got loads of guests. We've got loads of good guests coming up actually, and we've got someone flying in at the moment into the UK, which is going to stop by, Stephen Kuhn.
Oh yeah, Stephen was on my podcast as well. He's good, Steve. He's good, Stephen. Look forward to meeting him in person. What are you up to this weekend?
I was having this conversation with someone last night. I don't really
quite know.
No, it's just weekdays, weekends, school holidays. That made no difference to me. It's just I just go about life, as you know. When I blow you up on a Sunday, well, I don't do it anymore, but.
You won't get me this Sunday. You won't get me this Sunday. I'm going. I've got my kids, my 2-year-old's family birthday party on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we're going to visit my wife's nan who's got severe Alzheimer's. So we're there for a couple of hours. So you won't catch me on Sunday.
Well, yeah. I've made it a rule now. Saturday mornings is me and Ariana, because she's getting to that age where she needs to be more interactive with. We go dancing and coffee mornings, and she absolutely loves it, and I love it as well. So that is a Saturday morning.
Can you record yourself dancing? Can you get her to record you dancing?
Oh no, I don't dance. I sit and watch.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, she's so impressed with herself, and that's a proud moment. But yeah, let's rock and roll. We've got some good guests next week. Enjoy the weekend, everyone.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll be back 6:30 a.m. It is British summertime, not GMT at the moment. British summertime, 6:30 a.m. Monday morning, wherever you are around the world. Thank you for being part of the Winners Club. We will see you on Monday.